subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Develop. Well, not only did he determine the type through the Mizumi style, but Molek also made him recognize the probability of developing the type of ability. Hua Shidalang, who belongs to the strengthening type, practices the strengthening type's release, which is the ability of mind. He can reach 100% strength in this aspect. But if he practices the release type, it is only 80%, the operation type is only 60%, and the materialization type is only 40%. Originally, he cultivated the release mind ability that was incompatible with his attribute system, double stand. This made it impossible for him to exert his own combat power 100%. Even Hisoka commented that he was a waste of capacity. His abilities are the materialization and operation type abilities that are incompatible with his own strengthening type abilities, so his own talents have been wasted. Post views 566 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 030. The development of Kamesun Ryu is just around the corner. 030, the development of Kamesun Ryu is just around the corner. Therefore, after learning of Molek's warning, Hua Shidalang would at least not grow up so wildly and develop the abilities he thought were good. Combining his own system, he developed the abilities that suited him so that he could maximize his own strength. Hua Shidalang had such a goal of his own, and he kept striving for it. As for Skavara, who was also a bodyguard and a dog owner, it was really painful. Skavara opened his essence hole and became a nun ability user just by chance. Not to mention that his nun ability had been developed and cultivated by him early on. It was to control the dogs he raised. As an operator, he had such an ability, so it could be said that he had basically no potential. This was the end of his life. Therefore, he had a very difficult time practicing the basic 4 elements of nun. What's more, he himself was not interested in this. He just wanted to make money, raise dogs, and live a small life with his girlfriend. He never thought about becoming stronger. Therefore, even if Molek gave him the conditions and knowledge to practice, he only practiced for a while. After learning that the family had settled down and that all the enemies were almost dead, he relaxed again. In this regard, Molek said that everyone has their own aspirations, and good words can hardly persuade a damned ghost. He respected Skavara's choice. However, the other party wasted his good intentions, so it would be unreasonable not to do something. So, Skavara was arranged to be Hua Shirdolang's sparring partner. Whenever Hua Shirdolang had some gains and improvements, he would come to Skavara for a fight. While in name, it was a fight, but in fact, it was used as a sandbag. Skavara was beaten unilaterally. Every time they fought, he was beaten black and blue and fell to the ground wailing. His own dogs licked his wounds and swallowed the bitter fruit silently. It's not that he had never thought about finding someone to do justice, but this matter was originally arranged by Molek's bodyguard leader, and he couldn't refuse. As for the boss, let alone let Molek give it all. What's more, he was also happy to make his guard team stronger. Of course, he didn't care what kind of method was used. For this reason, if Skawara, who had no way to uphold justice, wanted to avoid being beaten or to be beaten less painfully, he had to pick up the practice method given by Molek again. As for Molek himself, he was refining his amazing temperament while digesting those martial arts and experience. This takes a certain amount of time to slowly wear out. In this way, the entire Nasra family fell into a trend of advocating martial arts. Almost everyone is practicing seriously, and the development of the Kame Sennin school is just around the corner. Congratulations, Coca-Cola. If the Kame Sennin had a spirit in this world, he would definitely feel very gratified. In this way, time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, more than half a year had passed, and it was the end of 1997. In the past 6 months, Light Nasra relied on the divination ability from Nyan. He successfully connected with the Leeds family, gained a lot of wealth and status, and began to become famous. However, this reputation was not a good one. There is no impenetrable wall in the world, and the news about divination gradually spread. Many underworld families who envied him maliciously slandered and defamed him behind his back, and they were quite displeased with him. But Light Nasra was completely unmoved. He knew very well that as long as Nyan's divination ability was in his hands, he would not lose power. Those malicious slanders and defamations made him lose a hair, let alone the lucrative benefits. Of course, there were some greedy and jealous, stupid guys who sent killers and underworld members to assassinate him, kidnap Nyan, and so on. The guys who assassinated him were all blocked by Dazo. As for the assassins who kidnapped Nyan, even Light Nasra felt a little sympathetic to their plight. It is said that they were all captured alive by Molek and used as their toys. Well, in Molek's words, they were used as objects for his training and experiments. That sounds like this is not a good ending. In addition, Right Nasla was smart enough to go to the Leeds family to cry and seek help. With the help of the Leeds family, the disturbance was quickly settled. Right Nasla got his wish and made further progress, and he no longer had to be worried about by his fellow gangsters. However, for the sake of safety and for his own safety, and as his family business and stalls grew bigger and bigger, Right Nasla hired 2 more bodyguards after Molek's judgment. Post views 579 started opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 031. The main storyline is getting closer and closer. 031, the main storyline, is getting closer and closer. Shachimono Dochino and Ivarinfu. The former is a rare professional hunter, while the latter is a tall soldier from the military, giving people a sense of security. These 2 people are also familiar faces. The former was an operator who was sent out for assessment when Kurapika applied for the Nasra family. His mind ability is the 11 people under the eaves of the operation system. The specific ability is to use the black-clothed man balloon as the basis and create 11 combatants with mind. 8 use swords, 3 use guns, and can only give them simple commands, such as attack the nearest enemy around. The control distance is only a few meters at most, and the means of control are also very simple. Most of the time it is used for defense, and the strength is not strong in the auction venue in Ukexin City. Franklin's mind bullet easily penetrated the black-clothed man and hit his head and died. Ivarinfu originally had no sense of existence. He entered the underground auction venue with Shachimono Dochino and Feijia to participate in the auction. Later, the venue was attacked by the Phantom Troop. Under the protection of Shachimono Dochino, he and Feijia were ordered to inform Dazoni. When rushing out of the venue, he was killed by Xiaodi with a headshot using the bulging eye fish. Very good. More and more familiar faces began to appear. This also means that the beginning of the main storyline is getting closer and closer. The climate in December has gradually turned cold and entered winter. But in the new villa purchased by the Nasra family, it is warm in winter and cool in summer, and the climate is pleasant. Looking at the blooming flowers and flying butterflies in the lawn, those who don't know would think it's spring now. This is what Nyan asked, to see bright flowers in winter. Light Nasra naturally fulfilled her little wish. He spent a lot of money to buy strange objects from some professional hunters to ensure that it is spring all year round. In addition to the lawn, Light Nasra also knew that in this new villa, a training room with a wide space was specially arranged. It provides a place for bodyguards to practice, spar, and vent their energy. At this time, the crackling sound of fighting could be heard in the training room. Plop! In the wide space, a figure was thrown to the ground in a mess. Fortunately, the ground was made of smooth and flat special wooden boards with great bearing capacity. Otherwise, if the ground was damaged, it would be easy to suffer secondary damage. You are worthy of being the boss. In the corner, standing against the wall, Shachimono Dochino, who had curly blonde hair and looked like a monkey, looked at the scene and couldn't help swallowing. It used to take a while to fight, but now it only takes 10 moves to defeat Hua. Sure Dolang, right? Standing next to him in the same standard military posture, the tall, straight-built white man Yue Lianfu also nodded seriously with a serious expression. Not only has the time and moves been shortened a lot, but I can also feel that the captain's reaction and experience in fighting are also constantly getting stronger. After joining the bodyguard team, The two naturally followed the orders of Light Nasra. They worked under Molek and obeyed his arrangements. During this period, Dazoni was still unwilling to give up and wanted to find the two. But there was no way. On the one hand, Xiachimano Docino and Yuel Yinfu obeyed the orders of their boss, Light Nasra. They obeyed whoever the boss told them to obey. On the other hand, after watching Molek fight with Hua Shidalang, they were also extremely convinced and admired the strength of the two. Naturally, they stood on Molek's side. Maybe even if Hua, Shidalang, and the 15 of us were together, we would not be able to defeat the captain. 15. Sachimana Docino was startled. Where did 15 people come from? He looked at Hua, Shidalang lying on the ground, and then looked at Skuvara, who was feeding the dog beside him and shrinking his head without saying a word. Including the two of us, there are only 4 of us. Don't you still have your telepathic ability? Yuel Yinfu looked straight ahead and said in a deep voice, "Your 11 men in black can also be counted as you are a professional hunter after all, and you have received the orthodox teachings of the Heart Source School. The manipulator of the man in black you developed should be able to cause some trouble to the captain, right? Shachimono Docino. How can they be the same? There are still differences between people with the ability to read and write. You don't have to consider my ability at all." Shachimono Docino shook his head like a rattle. "Instead of having expectations of me, you might as well put your hopes on the dogs of Skavara." Skavara, who was quietly reducing his presence, raised his head when he heard this. His eyes met with those of Shachimono Docino, and then the two of them avoided each other again. They were both poor students in terms of ability. So why should poor students embarrass poor students? As expected, it's still a little bit off. On the field, Huashur Dolang fell down, panting heavily, while recalling the battle process just now. No, it's not necessarily just a little bit worse. During the half year of training with Molek, he also developed a good habit of reviewing his games. Perhaps I still have a lot to learn. He found several shortcomings in the battle. The gap is getting bigger and bigger. Hua Shidalang raised his head and looked at Molek, who was walking beside him. "You are getting stronger and stronger." Post views 573 started opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 032. Is he really going to take a Hunter's License Exam 032? Is he really going to take a Hunter's License Exam? Thanks to your sparring partner. Molek smiled and stretched out his hand to Hua Dolang, who was lying on the ground. At this time, he was less impetuous and no longer had the roughness that Netero saw at that time. Instead, he was introverted and calm. Now he has changed from being extroverted to being restrained. However, whenever necessary, he will let people see what it means to show off his talents. It's really hard to imagine that you are completely different from the two you are now when we first started fighting. Huashur Dolang sighed, and he also grabbed Molek's hand and was pulled up. Thinking back to the first day of their fight, he felt Molek's extraordinariness. Although he was directly crushed by his energy, he was still able to deal with Molek by relying on his martial arts experience of reaching the 200th floor of the Sky Arena. But later, he could clearly perceive that Molek's progress was very rapid, and it was beyond his imagination. After a few more fights, Molek didn't even need a strong energy, but could easily defeat the enemy with his experience and techniques in martial arts. He was knocked down by the looseness. Just like now, this made Hua Dolang feel that he was not facing a gang bodyguard captain, but a real martial arts master. He didn't understand why someone like Molek could improve so fast, and why a person like him would choose to stay here. He only knew that the Kame Senryu martial arts was really profound. Every time he practiced, he would have different feelings and gains. Now Huashur Dolang has confidence. Even if he faces Hisoka again, he will never be beaten so badly. Your ability to read is almost developed, right? Molek patted Hua Shidalang's shoulder as he stabilized his breath. When your ability to read is developed, I'm looking forward to feeling it again. You can rest assured about this, Captain. When talking about his own ability of mind, Huashur Dolang's eyes showed a confident smile. I will never let you down. After understanding his own department and the training system of his mind ability, he also had a general idea of his ability. He planned to combine his mind ability with the martial arts he practiced before and the moves of the Kamesin Ryu that he learned later. He had been studying a set of boxing techniques called Tiger Bite Fist. He also found that the afterimage fist in the Kamesin Ryu was very much to his liking. What he is currently practicing is to combine these two boxing techniques to refine his own unique FA. And after more than half a year of study and practice, it is almost formed. I believe that it won't be long before his mind ability, afterimage, Tiger Bite, True Fist, can be fully practiced. Well, the ability is not yet perfect, but the name Hua Shi Dolang has thought of it first. He even added the word true. I can only say that he is a guy of the strengthening department after all. Next, you just need to cultivate your own nin ability and then further deepen your understanding and practice of Nan. Molek gave another simple instruction. With your talent, the only thing that will hinder you from becoming stronger is a matter of time. With Molek's help, how could he watch Hua Shi Dolang waste his talent again? This time, he really asked him to practice his Nun ability based on his own basic strengthening system. Ensure that his strength and talent can be fully utilized. Understand, Hua Shi nodded solemnly. He kept in mind every word that Molek said, every instruction and teaching to him. Well, your future is basically fine, and I have to think about my own affairs next. After Molek gave Hua Shi Dolang instructions, he turned around and looked at the other bodyguards who were chatting over there. Dochino. Molek waved over there. Here you are, Captain. Upon hearing the voice, Shachimono Dochino was startled and immediately trotted over. What's the plan? Let me ask you. What was the process when you took the hunter's license exam? Hunter license? Zakemono Dochino was stunned. The captain asked about the hunter license. Could it be that he was going to take the exam? Some doubts emerged in his mind, but Zakemono Dochino remained calm on the surface. He recounted all the details of his original exam. Okay, I understand. Molek nodded after listening. Then, he patted Hua Shi Dolang and Zakemono Dochino on the shoulders. Tell the boss later, I'm going to run something. As he spoke, he walked out the door. The lady's safety is the responsibility of you guys. Remember to take care of her safety before I come back. Yes, Yavalian Fu and Skuvara, who hurriedly got up from the ground and didn't even bother to feed the dog, immediately responded loudly. No way. Zakemono Dochino looked at Molek's departing back and murmured, Captain, is he really going to take a hunter's license exam? What's so good about a hunter's license? Well, the hunter license seems to be really good for most people in the world. Not only can it bring a lot of convenience, but it can also accept and learn an ability and enter a whole new world. But for the captain, it doesn't seem to have any appeal. He doesn't seem like someone who cares about these things. Post views, 561, start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 033. Whale Island. Xiaojia. 033 Whale Island. Xiaojia. Shachimono Dochino was puzzled, while Molek was already on his way to the next Hunter test. Hunter test. With the gentle sunshine above his head, Molek walked on the road and glanced at the Hunter Association XX the registration card with the logo. He couldn't help but smile. How can you not go and see it? In this world, there are all kinds of rare animals, hidden treasures, and secret realms of magic, all because of the word unknown, which exudes endless magic power, making countless people willing to become its captives. This group of people who pursue precious and hard-to-get items are called hunters, and only those who pass the hunter test of the Hunter Association and obtain a hunter license can be officially granted the identity of hunter. To act as a professional hunter, you need a hunter license. If you fail the rigorous test, you cannot get a license. Once you become a hunter, you can get all kinds of preferential treatment, including but not limited to access to prohibited areas. You can enter 90% of the countries that are generally prohibited from entry, and 75% of restricted areas can be used as collateral. The money obtained from the sale can provide food and clothing for 7 generations of descendants, and can also be used as collateral to borrow high-value loans, free use of public facilities. 95% of public facilities can be used for free, and you can also use computer web pages without spending a dime for Molek. Having these privileges is indeed very convenient for his next actions. But participating in this hunter test is not his main purpose. Blind box. In the past 6 months, Molek basically did not go out. Naturally, he did not open many blind boxes. Apart from a slightly larger storage space opened by Dazoni before, there was no other gain. This time, what Molek wants is to get more blind boxes and gain more power by participating in the hunter test. Although it is not the test period when the official plot begins yet, it is enough for him to accumulate blind boxes and experience in advance. And he has already found the first stop of his trip. He holds a map of the island in his hand. The appearance of the island is like a whale floating on the sea. Whale Island is a wonderful island named Whale Island because of its whale-like appearance. The island has a complex terrain, dense rainforests, and bottomless lakes, breeding various rare birds and animals. Even the existence of some intelligent plants cannot be ruled out. The two most famous creatures on this Whale Island are a ferocious beast that grows on land, called a fox bear. The other is a fish spirit that grows in the lake, called the king of the swamp. The king of the swamp is very slippery, and it is said that it has not been caught in 10 years. The fox bear is extremely ferocious and cannot be tamed. It is said that the king of the forest is a fox bear beast. But I don't know who spread the rumor that this fox bear beast is close to a human child. And it also has a name. It seems to be called Jietai. Ordinary people might scoff at such a statement. But for Molek, the little boy in front of him who was concentrating on fishing was the best evidence and persuasiveness. In the center of the huge lake stood some dense trees growing above the lake. On the largest tree among them, a child wearing a green jacket and a natural black hedgehog head was sitting there motionless with a fishing rod in his hand. A pair of orange-red eyes stared closely at the fishing rod in his hand and the float on the lake. Butterflies flew slowly past him, and frogs croaked and jumped over him. The animals seemed to be completely unaware that there was a person here. The breathing frequency of the hedgehog-headed boy seemed to be completely integrated into nature and integrated with the surrounding environment. Do you understand nature better than anyone else because you used the mountains and the sea as playgrounds when you were a kid? On another big tree, Molek stood there, looking at Xiaojia sitting on the treetop. Seeing his current state, he nodded slightly. He has lived in nature since he was a child and has inherited the excellent talents of his father and the Fulishi clan. Xiaojia, the male protagonist of the hunter world, Jay Fulishi, has been more sensitive than ordinary people in terms of the 5 senses since he was a child, and his sense of smell and hearing are even more outstanding. He is also familiar with weather forecasts, animal language, and so on. Although he is not good at learning from others, he will remember what he has actually done, and his learning ability and speed are very strong. This also makes his physical ability very strong and his recovery ability amazing, which can be regarded as a special physique. At this time, he was concentrating on fishing out the Swamp King in the lake, which even 5 adults might not be able to catch, because only in this way would his adoptive mother, Aunt Mid, agree to let him take the hunter test. This was an agreement between the two of them. It was also to find the trace of his father, Jean Fulisai, who was still alive. The still slightly immature Xiaojia was so determined. However, he had never seen how attractive the blind box flashing with red light was beside him. Red blind box, a high-level blind box. This level of blind box was also swiped out next to the protagonist of this full-time hunter. And this was one of the reasons why Molek came here specifically. Post views. 586. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 034. See the high-end blind box again. 034. See the high-end blind box again. Even though the main storyline hasn't officially started, there's already a red-level blind box. Molek on the treetops behind was a little regretful about this. If I had traveled earlier and came here last year, maybe I could have gotten a special blind box. Last year, Xiaojia broke into the forest during the mating season of fox bears. As expected, he was attacked by a mother bear. At the critical moment, Kate, who was chasing Jin's trail and completing the last trial left by Jin for him, showed up in time and save Xiaojia in time. It was for this reason that Xiaojia learned about Jean and hunters from Kate. As a result, he was determined to take the hunter test and become a hunter who would rather leave his son and do this job. It could be said that it was because of that encounter between Xiaojia and Kate that a series of plots in the world of Hunter x Hunter were created. It was really unreasonable to not have a top-level special blind box in this scene at that time. Not to mention, it is not difficult to conclude from the chat between Xiaojia and Jean after they met on the World Tree. Jean also secretly followed Kate to Whale Island to watch Xiaojia's situation. Even Kate's trip to Whale Island was definitely his handiwork. The purpose is to lead Xiaojia to the path of Hunter. If Jean was there at that time, Molek couldn't imagine what kind of amazing things could be open in that blind box. But there is no way. What has passed is past. Cherish the present is the most important thing. Not to mention that after the main storyline begins, there will definitely be higher level and more blind boxes. This red blind box in front of him is also an appetizer. Thinking of this, Molek's figure gradually disappeared on the treetops. Whoosh! It was as if a slight breeze blew by him. Xiaojia, who was sitting on the tree, suddenly regained a bit of light in his eyes. He subconsciously looked behind him and found nothing unusual. He tilted his head, then turned his head and stared at the fishing rod in his hand. Your perception is quite sharp. On the treetop not far away, Molek smiled and glanced at Xiaojia's back. Just now, he just deliberately exposed a little wind pressure, and as a result, he sensed the unusual place in the surrounding environment. The protagonist of this world is really talented. But it is precisely because of this that I can get good things, isn't it? At this time, the red blind box in my space backpack was particularly eye-catching and emitting a bright light. Get a high-level blind box. Do you want to open it? Open. Successfully opened. Obtained. Rui Stick, Source World, Dragon Ball. Rui Stick. Molek was suddenly delighted when he saw the name, and then he saw the Source World marked behind it. Is it from Dragon Ball? I thought it was the Rui Jingu Bang from Journey to the West. Molek was a little disappointed, but soon he was relieved. Well, even if it was the real Rui Jingu Bang from Journey to the West, it was the magic weapon that Diyu used to control floods, the Dinghai Shenzhen, which weighed 13,500 kilograms. Even if he was given it, he couldn't use it. The Rui stick is also a very good weapon. Molek looked at the red stick lying quietly in the space backpack, which looked very ordinary. With a flip of his palm, the red stick appeared in his hand. Rui stick is the weapon used by Son Goku, the protagonist of Dragon Ball. Originally, it was a divine weapon connecting Karen Tower and the Temple of Heaven. Later, after the young Rashi Master climbed up Karen Tower with great difficulty, he insisted on asking Cat Master for this weapon. However, Cat Master believed that no one else was qualified to use this weapon. After that, Rashi Master gave it to Son Gohan, who then passed it to his adopted grandson, and then to Son Goku. As a divine weapon, Rui stick is light but very hard, and can be stretched and shortened according to the wishes of the user. As long as the user is willing, Rui stick can even extend from the surface of the Earth to the moon. It is a powerful weapon that will never be broken. This length can cross the planet, and can be stretched and shortened at will, and will not be damaged. The durability is directly maxed out. It is indeed worthy of something opened from a high-end blind box. And since the protagonist of this world, Xiaojia, is currently fishing with his fishing rod, is the weapon that is opened also the weapon of the protagonist of another similar world? Molek weighed the Rui stick in his hand. The fishing rod in Xiaojia's hand is very special. It is also a retractable fishing rod. Xiaojia uses it as a weapon and a survival tool. Although it cannot give the enemy a fatal blow, Xiaojia can use it to accurately hit or hook the target. Not only did he successfully catch the Swamp King later, but it also played a very important role in the subsequent Hunter test, Sky Arena, Chimera Ant, and other story chapters. This rod was used by his father, Jean Fulisai, in his early years and left to him. It is also very meaningful. Stick weapons are also good. With the collector, both melee and ranged means are available. Molek was quite satisfied with this harvest. Weapons like this that will not be damaged and can be expanded or shrunk at will are very handy. And who knows, at some point, this feature can play a key role after carrying the Rui stick on his back and hanging the collector around his waist. Molek felt that the trip was complete. Then the next step was his second main purpose of coming here. Post views 561 start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 035. The first official hunter testing journey begins now. 035, the first official hunter test journey begins now. Although Whale Island is just a small island. But because of its unique geographical location, it has become a must-pass route on a sea route. Therefore, it has become a registration and boarding point for the hunter test. Some candidates who register for the hunter test can board the transport ship to the hunter test venue from the dock of this island. Molek planned to board the ship from here and start the test journey in advance. As for Xiaojia, Molek did not intend to disturb him. Regarding Xiaojia's subsequent growth journey, Jindu has already arranged it clearly for him. Hunter Test, Sky Arena, Ukexin City Auction, Greed Island, NGL Autonomous Region Investigation. It can be said that Jin spent a lot of effort on every step to create a sufficient growth environment for Xiaojia. Molek has no interest in disturbing the peculiar way of getting along and communicating between this father and son. Not to mention, he is unwilling to disturb Xiaojia's growth trajectory and delay the changes and development of the plot. He is also thinking about waiting for Xiaojia to officially start the main plot of the Hunter world next year, so that he can open the blind box. The Hunter test starts on January 7th, at the beginning of each year. The issue that Molek participated in was the 286th issue at the beginning of 1998. It is the issue before the 287th test when the plot officially started. It was also the period in which Hisoka beat up the examiner and made 20 candidates unable to make a comeback. At the dock of Whale Island, Molek quietly recalled what happened in this test. In this test, Toilet God, Hisoka was disqualified because he disliked a certain examiner and beat him severely. He also killed and injured 20 examinees. Because the incident was too serious, no one passed the test this time. To use Netaro's words, it was a very interesting test. But because of this, Hisoka beating up the examiner is also a famous scene, and it can almost open a good blind box. While Molek was thinking, a ship came over the sea, cutting through the waves. The goddess logo on the bow was particularly eye-catching. When this official ship of the Hunter Association docked at the dock, Molek stepped onto the deck without hesitation. His first official hunter test journey since he came to this world began. Before leaving the Nasra family, Molek confirmed the process with Shachimono Dochino, a professional hunter who had obtained a hunter's license. For each year's test, candidates must rely on the little information they get to find the location of the venue. This is also a test and screening for candidates. In order to reduce the number of candidates, the Hunter Association will set up a variety of traps along the way. The venue is set up in a different location every year, and it is set up in a place that is difficult to be found. Without the help of a guide, it is difficult for candidates to reach the venue. Candidates must first find a guide and have them confirm their talents before they can be led to the venue. The novel was taken from the Rala's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. And this Poseidon is one of the tests before entering the venue. After the Poseidon set sail, Molek casually leaned in a corner of the deck, observing the surrounding environment and people. At this time, the deck was like sardines, crowded with candidates who were going to take the test. These people looked tattooed all over their bodies, tattooed on every exposed part. They had hideous faces, fierce and ferocious, holding weapons in their hands, and making all kinds of cruel expressions on their faces. If they were to play cosplay, they might attract a lot of people to take pictures with them. Molek judged them like this. Looking at this group of guys, there is basically no powerful character. Almost all of them are a bunch of scum who are strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. Not even as good as the worst sailor on this ship. It can't be said that to be a sailor on the Poseidon, a ship officially approved by the Hunter Association, they must have some skills. Comparing this group of people with the sailors is indeed a bit bullying. But the students on board know they were not even candidates. At best, they were applicants. They had no self-awareness at all. Some of them had restless genes in their bones, and it was uncomfortable not to cause trouble. Especially with so many people crowded together, it was easy for some friction to occur. So, after the Poseidon set sail from Whale Island and sailed for a while, the group of people on the ship could not hold back and became restless. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? After experiencing the provocative greetings like the above, the deck evolved from a group of sardines to pufferfish, and the pufferfish started fighting with black and blue faces. Molek retreated behind the crowd and watched coldly, not participating in the stupid behavior of these stupid idiots. And he also found that such fighting behavior was also secretly promoted by some sailors. It was as if they were deliberately making them quarrel. The sailors would not privately do such dangerous behavior that disrupted the stable environment on the ship, unless they were instructed and the action was tacitly permitted. In other words, the test has already started from the moment we boarded the ship. He moved his feet slightly, letting the candidate thrown towards him brush against his edge and fly out of the boat. Plop, falling into the sea, stirring up a wave. It's going on all the time. Post views, 579, start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 036. There is a professional hunter as a subordinate. 036, I have a professional hunter as my subordinate. Falling off a ship in the vast ocean means you are out of the game. As for what will happen to them in the future, the lucky ones may be rescued by passers-by or be swept to other islands by the waves and survive. Then we can only take out the agreement we signed when we signed up for the test, which said we would not be responsible for life or death. In this world full of dangers, human life is the least valuable. The disputes on the ship have begun to intensify. From time to time, people are knocked down, dragged, or thrown, and fall from the deck into the sea. The number of applicants is constantly decreasing. And when this situation is gradually expanding, stop it, everyone. The door of the cabin opened, and a loud shout spread across the entire deck. If anyone makes trouble here again, I will throw him down immediately. The captain, wearing a captain's hat and holding a pipe in his mouth, stood up. His distinctive red nose was shaking, and his sharp eyes swept the whole scene. Everyone subconsciously stopped their actions, and the scene became quiet. Very good. He slowly exhaled a puff of smoke. It's still a long way to go. I don't want any more trouble, the red-nosed captain said. His eyes paused for a moment on a man in a black suit in the corner. Then he looked at the audience, nodded, and turned around. This year, there is an incredible guy. The moment he turned around, he muttered to himself in a voice that only he could hear. The deck of the Poseidon gradually became calm. After the captain came out to take charge of the situation, all the applicants on the ship calmed down. No one wanted to be thrown off the ship before reaching the examination venue, ending their journey early. However, they are settled. But the real test has just begun. Whoosh whoosh. As time passed, gusts of gloomy wind gradually blew over the sea. The sky was covered by dark clouds, and darkness enveloped the entire sea. Crash! The waves swept, the waves surged, and the Poseidon swayed and bumped. Crackling, the raindrops poured down, filling the entire ocean with violent storms, and began to cry out violently. Woo! Inside the cabin, many applicants also let out waves of wailing. Such a large-scale and violent shaking and turbulence made these guys, who were strong on the outside, but weak on the inside, seasick and fell to the ground one by one, their bodies sore and limp that they had no strength at all. It really is getting worse every year. The captain saw this and couldn't help shaking his head. If they couldn't even withstand this little wind and waves, they couldn't even touch the threshold of hunters. Even if they arrived at the hunter test venue, they would just be sending their lives there. But fortunately, there is still a little surprise after all. He looked into the cabin, where the young man in a suit, who was sitting there motionless with his eyes closed, was the one he was paying attention to. Where did he come from? The captain asked the first mate beside him. The first mate immediately replied, he came from Whale Island. Whale Island? The drunken red-nosed captain smacked his lips. If you remember correctly, 19 years ago, there was also a guy who boarded the ship from Whale Island. And at that time, he was also in charge of the voyage of the Poseidon. That guy at that time left a deep impression on him. As expected, that guy became the only qualified person in the hunter test at that time. And later he became a senior member of the Hunter Association, became a very good hunter, and made many great achievements. That guy named Gene Fulisai. It seems that the small island of Whale Island is also a very interesting place. In the captain's room, the orange glow from the oil lamp illuminates the entire room. "Can you tell me your name?" the captain asked the only candidate who came here in a very friendly tone. "Molek." Molek straightened his clothes and responded. Well, even if the darkness in the room was dispelled, the black suit he was wearing still made people feel a little pressured. The drunken red-nosed captain subconsciously wanted to pick up his pipe, but held back. "You don't seem surprised at all that I called you here?" Molek nodded. "Before I came to take the test, I heard from one of my professional hunters. This is also part of the hunter test before entering the field. Participate in the test, subordinates." Professional hunters, can these words form a sentence? The drunken red-nosed captain couldn't help but look a little weird. "What else do you know?" He couldn't help but ask. Although he knew that the man in the suit in front of him might have an extraordinary origin, he had a professional hunter as a subordinate. Well, in this world, amazing things are possible. I also know, or should I say guess, that the annual hunter test is held on January 7th, which should be the reason. Molek looked out the window. There was still a strong wind and heavy rain outside. At this time of year, it is a stormy season, and the fishing boats have already collected their nets and returned home. The only ships on the sea that were transporting candidates were the Hunter Association ships. This can not only ensure that the association ships have smooth routes, but also use the storm as a pre-entry test to screen candidates during transportation. He turned around and looked at the red-nosed captain and said, "So, I should have passed the current test, right?" Post views, 539, start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 037. Naruto Wine 037 Naruto Wine Captain Red Nose. This was the first time he had encountered such a proactive candidate. "You are indeed qualified now." Captain Red Nose had experienced all kinds of storms and quickly stabilized. "But before that, I need to know from you your intention to become a hunter." Intention, Molek thought for a moment. It should be that they are quite curious about the whole process of hunter testing. Curious? Well, I want to see what kind of questions are asked in the hunter test every year. He looked at the drunken red-nosed captain who was stunned again and said with a smile, "So I may not pass this year, but maybe I will try again next year." Captain of the Red Nose, "Of course, if I come to take the test again next year, I will still board the ship from Whale Island. I will trouble you to take care of me then." Captain Red Nose. Molek didn't look at the captain who was stunned again, but instead kept his eyes on the white blind box next to him. On the Poseidon, he found the first blind box to start the hunter test. Get a normal blind box. Do you want to open it? Open. When Molek opened the blind box, the captain of the wine trough and Red Nose also came back to his senses. Well, as expected, there are not only all kinds of magical things in this world, but also people. He has been a transport examiner for hunter tests for decades, and this is the first time he has seen a guy who is curious about the content of the test questions. Well, but there are similar strange guys in other transport examiners. It seems that there is a weirdo who has participated in the hunter test more than 30 times, and it is estimated that he will come again this year. It is said that people who take the hunter exam are not seeking qualifications, but unprecedented excitement, and they have fun to torture newcomers and crush their dreams. They also got a nickname called Newcomer Killer. Sure enough, they are all a group of perverted guys. The captain of the wine trough and Red Nose subconsciously glanced at the black suit worn by Molek. He has silently classified the man in front of him into the list of those strange guys. And Molek also vaguely felt that the captain in front of him was thinking about something disrespectful. Fortunately, the captain's hospitality on the subsequent journey was impeccable. The comfortable room for rest and the delicious food provided him with a suitable environment to adjust his body and replenish his energy. When Molek got off the ship at port door, his whole spirit was in a very good state. Even without such hospitality, Molek would have no problem, but he could see the captain's sincerity. "We had a very pleasant time on this trip. At the dock, Molek held the captain's hand and said sincerely, 'When the hunter test starts next year, I will come back to see you, Captain.' Then there is no need. The drunk red-nosed captain grinned and said, I wish you can pass the hunter test this year in one go. No need for that. I have decided to accumulate experience this year and start the sprint next year. Is this the decision? Isn't this a little too hasty? No need. I will come to see you again next year. That's it. Goodbye. The drunken red-nosed captain looked at Molek's back as he turned away gracefully and was silent for a long time. Then he slowly laughed. He is really an interesting person. He fumbled in his arms. I haven't even told you where the nearest road to the hunter test venue is, but he went straight to the direction of the giant redwood tree. I hope the ferocious fox family there can get along well with him. He carefully took out a small bottle of wine that Molek had given him on the boat. Even this good wine is so attractive. Smelling the aroma of the Hokage wine, the wine-growing red-nosed captain also showed an intoxicated look on his face. I look forward to meeting you again next year and drinking such good wine again, Molek. Receive a regular blind box. Do you want to open it? Open successfully. Get Naruto wine, Source World, Naruto Gaiden, Shaolin Ninja Legend. The blind box that appeared next to the wine trough red-nosed captain. The item opened was wine. This is not surprising to Molek. Naruto wine. From the 11th episode of Naruto Gaiden, Lee's Ninja Legend S-Class Mission. It is also known as the most famous wine among famous wines in the ninja world, and one of the legendary 3 wines. In terms of taste, it can indeed be called a famous wine among famous wines, and it is worthy of being one of the legendary 3 wines. This time, a large box was opened in the blind box, and the inventory is very rich. Molek walked on the road to the giant redwood tree, looking at the changing scenery around him and taking a sip of Naruto wine from time to time, which was also a pleasant thing. He was more like a spring outing than a test, until he came to a dilapidated building. Wow, wow, wow. Crows were calling all over the desolate land. There were faint sounds of clothes rubbing against each other and the breathing of people gathering together. If you don't come out, I will have to treat you as people who have bad intentions towards me according to my own understanding. Molek put away the Hokage wine and looked calmly at the empty street in front of him. Then I will deal with it in my own way. Post views 517. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 038. Anyway, both answers are wrong, so I might as well choose a number I like. 038 anyway. Both answers are wrong, so I might as well choose a number I like. Plop plop. As soon as he finished speaking, the doors of the houses in the town opened, and people wearing white robes, hiding their bodies, appeared on the street. In the center of this group of people was an old woman with white hair, short stature, wrinkles all over her face, and few teeth. So, this is a 2-choice question and answer town. Molek nodded. Don't be so agitated. I know the rules. Just ask the questions directly. The quick question and quick answer granny, holding a cane with the Hunter Association logo, glanced at Molek with a turbid look. She raised her hand to stop the companions behind her who were about to make a plop-plop melody sound to interfere with the other party's choice. She took a deep breath and said, "Answer in a heartbeat." The quick question and quick answer granny shouted, "Even if you know the rules, I will explain them in detail. Next, I will ask a question. You only have 5 seconds to think about it. If you answer it wrong, you will fail. Then you have to give up being a hunter." She slowly explained the requirements. You can only answer the specified answers. All other answers are wrong. Then a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. You seem to be very familiar with my level and very confident. I only know a little bit. Molek glanced at the blind box with white light beside her and put it away. The number of ordinary blind boxes, the harvest, increased by 1 again. Then let's get started quickly. Quick questions and answers. The mother-in-law tightened the cane in her hand. If your mother and father both fell into the water and you could only save one, she said in a deep voice. One, mother, 2. Father, which one would you save? Molek answered without hesitation. Quick question and answer. Mother-in-law immediately raised her eyebrows. Why did you choose this answer? Because I prefer the number 1. Molek smiled and said, both answers are wrong, so I might as well choose a number I like. The quick question, quick answer. Mother-in-law, who was a little disappointed at first, raised her head again. She looked seriously at Molek, who was smiling, and then turned around to discuss with her white-robed companions behind her. After a rustling, the white-robed people instantly dispersed and stood on both sides of the street, leaving a wide road in the middle. "Go ahead." The grandmother stood aside. Molek glanced at the street ahead and then walked straight to the big iron gate next to him. Quick question and quick answer. The mother-in-law's cloudy eyes widened slightly. "Is this the right way?" With a creak, Molek pushed open the big iron gate, revealing the dark street inside. Looking at the small bright spot at the end, it is estimated that it will take about 2 hours to reach the exit from here. Molek turned around and looked at the silent grandmother who was answering questions quickly. "Can I go through here?" Quick questions and answers. The mother-in-law was silent for a moment before she slowly spoke. "I just said you can go. In other words, it doesn't mean I can't pass through here." Molek nodded. "I understand." With a squeak, he turned his hand and closed the big iron door again. "Since my mother-in-law asked me to pass through here," under the stunned gazes of the crowd, Molek smiled and said, "Then I'll just go through the front." Then, Molek walked straight along the cleared street. "Wait a minute." Quick question, quick answer. Grandma couldn't help it. "Since you know there's the right way here, why, let's leave the right path for next time," Molek said without looking back. "Anyway, I came here just to experience the contents of the hunter test. I never thought I could pass this time. Besides, isn't the lush greenery outside more refreshing than the pitch-black environment inside?" "Is that so?" Quick question and answer. Granny stared at Molek's back. This was the first time she had seen such a strange candidate in her invigilation career. "By the way, mother-in-law." Molek's steps suddenly stopped. "Although there is no correct answer to such a question, I also know that your intention is to let people know what to do when the necessary choice arises at any time." He turned around and said with a smile, "Try to anticipate all the cruel possibilities as much as possible. Misfortune will always come suddenly. Then you should be prepared for what will happen in the future." Molek gave his own opinion. "Then make yourself stronger, strong enough to protect the people you care about." "Become stronger?" Quick questions and quick answers. Grandma whispered, "That's right." Molek finally waved his hand at her and said, "And I don't like such questions. In other words, you are the one who asked the question. If it were someone else, this small town where the heartbeat is a choice between two, left behind the last voice of Molek. Although I can't solve the problem, I can solve the person who raised the problem." Solve the person? Looking at Molek's departing back, a smile gradually appeared on the face of the quick question, quick answer grandmother. "Really an interesting guy. I came to do this job because I wanted to meet someone like him." She didn't care whether Molek could hear her or not, and gave a hint at the top of her voice. "In the small house under the big fir tree in front, there lives a couple of guides. If you meet the requirements, they will lead you to the test site." Post views. 519 start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 039. Is this a family feud? 039? Is this a family feud? Shashasha. Wow, wow, wow. The branches swayed, the crows cried, and this seemingly ordinary and desolate town fell into silence again. Only a few faint voices of communication were heard. "Mother-in-law, why don't you remind him that the road ahead is basically blocked, and there are so many beasts and monsters. Roads are made by people. As for wild beasts and monsters, I think you should worry about whether those monsters can survive in his hands instead of worrying about him. Even though he looks young, he is several times more terrifying than ordinary monsters." Molek didn't think he was scary. He even thought the monsters that appeared on this road were cute, especially the monster he was riding, which looked like a combination of a panda and a fox bear. Well, the bruises on its face showed that it had been beaten up a lot. "You want to suppress me? I just let you be my mount, and it's already fair to carry me this way." Molek patted the head of the yellow-eyed fox panda under him, and the latter trembled again. It was really annoyed. It was simply an arrogant lard. Why did it want to jump out and cause trouble for this ancestor? I hope this human can keep his promise and let me go when I get to the huge fir tree. The fox panda walked forward with its head down, while Molek opened the blind box of the quick question and answer grandma. Received a regular blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully opened. Obtained. Granny May's magic hat. Source world. Light messenger. Molek looked at the black witch hat with carrots printed on it in his hand, and many question marks appeared on his forehead. "They're all old ladies. so the things they open are similar, right? He couldn't help but complain. Granny May, a long-eared magician from the bright world, or the Magic King. She is also one of the 3 great magicians and a great figure among the long-eared people on the moon. In order to defeat the evil tribe, she fled to the moon to find the magic warriors. After finding the magic warriors, she followed them. She has been helping the protagonists on the journey. She's a very kind old lady. Not only the plot of the whole anime, but even the theme song, Molek, is still very impressed. My heart is the light that changes magic. This hat is just a decoration. There is no trace of magic. Molek looked it up and down, but didn't find anything unusual. In the end, he put it away. When I meet my mother-in-law again next year, I will give her this hat. After all, it is a white blind box, and I don't expect to get anything good. Molek has always had a positive attitude. Soon, with the help of the yellow-eyed fox panda, Molek passed through the many obstacles that were considered a dead end for humans. Before dark, he successfully arrived at the outskirts of the redwood tree. Well, the main reason was that the yellow-eyed fox panda refused to go any further inside. It can be seen that the species living inside are oppressive enough to threaten their lives. Thank you for your hard work. Molek got off the beast, and before he could pat it, it was so scared that it ran away. Molek tidied up his clothes and walked towards the big wooden house in front. Excuse me, is anyone there? Molek went forward and knocked on the door politely. Ding ding. The room was unusually quiet, without any movement. Sorry to bother you then. He creaked open the door of the wooden house, and what came into view was a slightly brutal scene. A fox-like monster with long, big ears, extremely slender body, narrow eyes, and typical fox appearance looked towards him. In his hand, he was holding a girl covered with tattoos. At the feet of the monster, there was a young man lying on the ground with scars all over his body. The fierce fox monster narrowed his narrow eyes and looked at Molek. Then he wanted to exert force on his feet immediately and sprint out with the kidnapped girl in his arms. But at this moment, is this a family feud? Molek pretended to be surprised and asked, or is it a family ethics drama? The old father beat his own son and kidnapped his own daughter. Alas, Molek sighed in a ridiculous voice. Is this the world of Warcraft and its survival habits? Or is it the racial ecology of the ferocious fox clan? As a human being, I don't understand, but I was shocked. It seems that I came a really bad time. Sorry to bother you. As he said this, Molek closed the wooden door with his hands, making a creaking sound. The fierce fox father in the house, the vicious fox son pretending to be injured and falling to the ground, pretending to be a kidnapped, vicious fox daughter. It shouldn't be like this? Shouldn't you have been alerted immediately after seeing us in this state? What's with that subtle look in your eyes when you close the door? And what do you mean by these words? Wait a minute. After the fierce fox father gradually reacted, he immediately yelled, "It's not what you think. We are the trial officers of the Hunter Association." The fierce fox father felt that if he didn't do something, he would be misunderstood by humans. It seemed that he did not follow the routine at all, which was beyond their expectations. Not only him, but also his son and daughter no longer pretended. They hurriedly stood up and rushed out with their father. And then, nothing happened. Post views 502 started opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 040. Bugs Bunny's Carrot 040 Bugs Bunny's Carrot. So, you are the trial officers of the Hunter Association and also the guides, mainly responsible for leading qualified candidates to the real venue, right? Molek, who pretended to leave but didn't, said so when he was stopped by the fierce fox family. That's it. The fierce fox father nodded, and then called out his wife who had been arranged in the jungle. The daughter and son who had turned into human form kept nodding beside him. It seems I misunderstood. Molek pretended to be enlightened. It's nothing, as long as the misunderstanding is resolved. The fox father said with a smile. Is it really a misunderstanding? This young man, after opening the door just now, exposed their identities in one breath. Father, daughter, son, their age and identity disguises were all seen through. Either he has extraordinary eyesight, or he has an understanding of their fox clan. But under such circumstances, the other party still said such words. That's a bit intriguing. As an examiner for so many years, I have always been the one who gave the test. But this time I was tricked by the candidate. As a smart race among the warcraft, the fierce fox father was specially invited to be the guide for the hunter test. After going through so many hunter tests, he still has some intelligence and experience. This time, he rarely met an interesting candidate, which made him feel interesting. Of course, it was mainly because of the strength and aura of the other party that made the fierce fox father wisely not choose the follow-up action. You could go inside and take a rest first. When no one comes at 12 o'clock in the evening, we will take you to the site of the hunter test. The fierce fox father kindly invited Molek into the house. It's a good opportunity for us to drink tea and chat. Then I will be disrespectful to refuse it. Molek followed the host into the house and took away the white blind box in the house. Receive a regular blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully opened. Obtained. Bugs Bunny's carrot from Looney Tunes. What the hell? Before Molek sat down, he saw another strange thing in his blind box. Bugs Bunny's carrots, although they look like rabbits, they are actually foxes. Molek couldn't help but complain in his heart, and they are vicious foxes. Bugs Bunny is a character in the animation and comic series Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes is an animation first launched by Warner in 1930. In the United States, it is more famous than MGM's Tom and Jerry and far exceeds Disney's Mickey Mouse. Bugs Bunny is a classic cartoon character in it. Hey, what happened, man? This line has become a memory for many people. A carrot came out. Molek couldn't help shaking his head in his heart. Before a magic hat with a carrot printed on it came out, and now a carrot came out directly. Could this island be called Carrot Island? What are you thinking about? The fox father took out the tea set and asked Molek, who was a little distracted. Nothing. Molek looked at the table. I was just thinking, you guys have brought out tea to entertain me. I have to say something. He turned around and took out the Bugs Bunny's carrot. Huh? The fierce fox father was first attracted by the action of Molek flipping his hand to take something and narrowed his eyes. Then, he was completely attracted by the carrot in Molek's hand. This carrot, the fox father's nose kept twitching. It looks delicious. Not only him, but also his son and daughter beside him sat up straight, staring at the carrot without blinking. Oh yes, he remembered that foxes eat carrots. Foxes will eat carrots in their natural environment, especially when humans have placed carrots there. In addition, some foxes are particularly fond of eating carrots. They not only eat carrots when food is scarce, but also choose this kind of food under normal circumstances. It seems that the evil fox family is particularly fond of carrots, and this carrot is the carrot of Bugs Bunny, who plays the leading role in his own series. Needless to say, the color and taste of the carrot that is favored by the protagonist. So, Molek drank tea and ate carrots with the evil fox family and spent a very pleasant night. In a blink of an eye, it was 12 o'clock in the middle of the night. Except for Molek, no other candidates came here. The evil fox father took Molek to the last location. It's been a long time since I've trained such a talented newcomer. Under the bright moonlight and in the starry night, the fierce fox father fluttered his wings. You can definitely pass the hunter test, thank you. Molek, who was like a paraglider, grabbed the fox's legs and said, but I may need you to lead the way for me again next year. Well, I will come again next year. The clear light shone on the man and the fox, and they headed towards the venue of this year's hunter test. When the first rays of dawn appeared on the horizon, the fierce fox also brought Molek to the scene of the 286th hunter test. Post views, 507 start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 041. Honestly, I hate this number. 041 to be honest. I hate this number. Number 54, street number 16, District 3, Larfa City. The ferocious fox father who turned into a human took Molek with him, holding a piece of paper with the address written on it. It's right there. The fox father paused and pointed to the building in front. This issue's test venue is right there. There, Molek looked around and saw that the sign at the gate was particularly clear. Royal School of Ralph School. On the dim plaque, there were these words engraved. Well, it was the former Royal School, which was established by the previous mayor of Lalfa. However, that mayor committed suicide out of fear of punishment because of his mistakes. The evil fox said casually, "Anyway, that's what the information says." Whether it was suicide or some other reason, that's something we don't know. The relationships in your human world are often more complicated than those in our world of Warcraft. Well, Molek agreed with this point. The Royal School of Ralpha has become history, but the building has been preserved. It has become the examination venue for this hunter test. Security, we are here to participate in the sports meeting. The fierce fox father knocked on a window of the security room at the door, and a lazy tone came out. What project are you participating in? The slogan of the 286th Universiade is "Victory is the best, come in." After exchanging the strange signals, the security guard opened the door and handed him a round card. Every year, unexpected things happen in the hunter test. There are millions of participants, and only one person out of 10,000 can come to this official venue. The fierce fox father took Molek to the campus road. Although I think you have a high chance of passing this time. You said you would come back to me next year. Standing at a certain entrance, the fierce fox father smiled and handed the round card in his hand to Molek. I'll be happy to lead you again. Molek, thank you. Molek thanked him and took the card representing the test number from him. Then the next second, the expression on his face froze. Mr. Fox. He immediately called out to the fox father who was about to leave. What's wrong? The latter looked back in confusion. Can I change my number? Molek said solemnly. To be honest, I hate this number. The number on the round card is a combination of 2, 5, and 0. That is 250. The fox father obviously had never encountered such a request from Molek. He consulted the security guard at the gate and another Hunter Association staff member who had the secret code. The latter had never expected such a situation to happen. He immediately called the top leaders of the Hunter Association. In essence, this behavior is not allowed, but because some candidates come from various regions and ethnic groups in the world. The regions where they live have a custom of being very sensitive to numbers. In view of the principle of respecting the customs of other ethnic groups and racial equality, the Hunter Association feels that it can make some concessions. Then just postpone it to the next account. At the Hunter Association headquarters, Netero, who looked like a fairy, knelt in front of the phone and sipped his tea. Even after more than half a year, he still didn't change much. What ethnic group is this candidate from? What is his name? Since he founded the Hunter Association, this was the first time he encountered such a thing. Netero asked casually with some curiosity, while the man who answered the phone looked a little strange. President, you also know this person. Oh, his name is Molek. Molek, Netero paused while holding the teacup. Is it the little guy with the bean face that we met in the Sky Arena? Yes, it's him. President, you don't have to emphasize the matter of relatives. Hoo. He's here to take the hunter test too, right? Netero stroked his beard with a smile, as if he had discovered something very interesting. That little guy is very mysterious. I haven't seen him for half a year. I wonder what he looks like now. By the way, who are the examiners for this year's hunter test? Who is there? Mr. Dumian was startled. Didn't I show it to you, the president, before? You also approved and signed it yourself. Is that so? I didn't see it, Netero said indifferently. I haven't paid attention to the selection of examiners since more than 10 years ago. Is it really okay for you to talk about passive resistance so confidently? Mr. Dumian Ren was sweating profusely, but he still took out the list of examiners for this session and handed it to Netero. Are these the people? Netero looked at the list and nodded, then paused and pointed at the head of one of the examiners and asked, Who is this person? Mr. Bean Face Man. So you don't remember. His name is Husho, a wanted bounty hunter, and he hates criminals the most. Because he is disgusted with dangerous people, he is somewhat extreme and radical in his behavior. It is said that he has caused many casualties among innocent people while catching criminals and is being investigated by the association. Is that so? Netero looked at the slightly ferocious face. Then why did he become the examiner of the hunter test this time? Because you signed and approved it. Mr. Bean Face Man complained his heart, but on the surface he still said honestly, Chun Long. Mr. Porter White thinks that although there are some inappropriate actions by the hunters who should chase the criminals, their purpose is understandable. They should be given some chances, therefore. Vice President Paris Dunn arranged him to be one of the examiners for this hunter test. Post views 574. Starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 042. Rookie Killer 042. Rookie Killer Porter White. Full name Porter White Gigante. 3-star terrorist hunter, prosecutor, military analyst. He is also the most straightforward of the 12 earthly branches, the one closest to President Netero in both reputation and strength. The 12 earthly branches, also known as the 12 branches, are the 12 hunters whose strength is recognized by President Netero. When there is something going on, he entrusts them to run the Hunter Association, and when he is free, Netero treats them as opponents to play with. Each of these people is given a code name of an earthly branch, and this group of people who are devoted to President Netero are willing to change their names to match the code name. They even changed their dress and made efforts with blood and tears. Of course, there are some exceptions. For example, Paris Dunhill, who is also the vice president of the Hunter Association as a rat. He is the son of President Netero, Bijan Netero's spy in the Hunter Association. He is very keen to destroy other people's plans and enjoys the process of fighting with people and frustrating others. He feels happy only when he is hated. He is one of the only 2 people who did not change his appearance and name to something related to the animal he represents. The other one is Gon's biological father, Kim Fullis, because he is the only member of the 12 Zodiacs who goes against Netero, and Netero wants to have an opponent of the type he is least good at dealing with by his side. So 2 years ago, he became the vice president of the Hunter Association. He did not disappoint Netero's expectations, and in order to pull him down from the position of president before Netero died, he caused all kinds of trouble for Netero. For him, Netero is an opponent in the game, and causing trouble for him is also part of the game. After Pariston became the vice president, many dark events occurred in the Hunter Association. For example, 18 hunters disappeared, and the annual average has increased 10 times compared to before he took office. And this time, the very controversial Tokaran was arranged to be the examiner of the Hunter test, which included the intention of causing trouble for the association. Is that so? Netero thought for a moment and said, if I remember correctly, it seems that Molek is now a member of a gang, right? Yes. Mr. Beanface nodded. He was born in Meteor Street and then was recruited by the underworld Nasra family and became the captain of the guard. After taking out the magical bean in the sky arena, Mr. Beanface found out the information of Molek without Netero's instructions. Another one from Meteor City? Oh, interesting, Netero laughed, not knowing what he was thinking of. Let's just follow the normal process first. He made a decision with a wave of his hand. On the other side, in Raffle Royal School, this number looks better. Molek took the number plate, 251, with a smile and thanked the security staff. Thank you very much. The novel was taken from the Rala's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Holding the new number plate, Molek really walked into the official venue of this hunter test. It was the huge sports playground of the Royal School of Ralpha. There were already many candidates who found this position and took their seat here. There are still many familiar faces. Looking at those familiar and vivid faces, Molek's mouth slowly raised a smile. Of course, the most important thing is that the blind boxes with white light around them are so attractive. 1, 2, 3. Molek silently counted the number of these blind boxes, and then in an instant, he was attracted by a touch of blue light. Blue luster, medium-level blind box. To be able to have such a level, a character with an important status and influence similar to Nyan. In this hunter test, it seems to be, are you new here? A man wearing a blue vest and a comb-over hairstyle came over with a simple smile on his face. This should be your first time to take the hunter test, right? The short, square-nosed uncle asked in a simple tone. I have never seen your face in previous hunter tests. That's right, this is my first time attending. Molek also smiled at the familiar person in front of him. So next, should I ask questions like before? Uncle, you have participated in the hunter test before, right? To get into the rhythm of your conversation and let you lead me. Well, newcomer Killer Dongbon, who was originally smiling because of the first words of Molek's first participation, suddenly froze on his face. But thank you for coming to me. Molek patted his shoulder and said, This proves that I am quite good at hiding. Otherwise, even the newcomer killer, Donba, who is always steady, good at observing people's expressions and able to identify danger signals, would not have failed to notice my abnormality and come directly to me. Sweat gradually appeared on the fat face of Donba, the great god. It seems I'm interrupting you. Realizing that he might have hit a wall, the Donba master quietly put away the powerful laxative drink that he had not yet taken out his arms. Just as he was about to move his feet to leave, he found that the hand that patted his shoulder seemed to have turned into steel. It directly pressed his body to the ground, making him unable to move a step. I'm actually quite curious. Molek spoke slowly. Under the gaze of Donba, whose simple and honest face had been shed and whose pale face was now wretched and shabby, he pointed to a corner in front of him. You should have come before him, right? Molek glanced at the number plate, number 25, on Donba's chest, and then glanced at the number plate, no, 33, on the chest of a poker clown figure in the corner. As a rookie killer, have you ever talked to him? Post views, 594 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 043. Sharp comments 043 sharp comments. Well, Donba God no longer had the image of an honest man, nor did he look like a seasoned newcomer killer. After taking a look over there, he also shrank his head. No, he shook his head quickly. Although I am keen to participate in the Hunter test every year, I also like to watch the Sky Arena broadcast. Donba laughed awkwardly. I have watched the battles on more than 200 floors. The two contestants, Hisoka versus Huashir Dolang. I personally don't have the ability to reach more than 200 floors. So Molek understood. No wonder you can participate in the Hunter test more than 30 times in a row. You are lucky. Donba showed a slightly ugly smile. The Sky Arena has a relatively large influence in this world. Even Donba has watched the broadcast of the game. He also happened to watch the match between Shi Suo and Hua Shidolang. Therefore, when she saw the newcomer number 33 who came to participate in the Hunter test arrive at the venue, Donba wisely did not offend him. Since you have participated in the Hunter test more than 30 times, you are considered a veteran. Molek carried him to a secluded place and sat down. I'm just bored, so tell me briefly about the Hunter test. Okay. Donba didn't dare to refuse. He was obviously not light in weight, but the other party carried him like a chick. When he was carried here, he knew that he had hit a wall this time. He had participated in the Hunter test more than 30 times, but this time he was pecked by geese all day long. Donba sighed in his heart and honestly told the details of the Hunter test. Generally speaking, each Hunter test consists of 5 rounds. The 5th round is the final test. If you pass it, you can get a Hunter license. I think you all know the specific rights and interests of a Hunter's license, so I won't go into details. This year's Hunter test also has many familiar faces worth noting. Donba introduced the familiar figures in the field one by one, like the King of Hell calling the shots. The most famous ones are the 3 brothers of Amori there. In a corner of the venue, 3 brothers wearing purple, blue stripes, and green sweaters stood together, alert to the surrounding. The 3 brothers, who are known for their outstanding team spirit, are the eldest brother Amori, the 2nd brother Amori, and the 3rd brother Amori. They are old faces in the Hunter test. They are good at division of labor and cooperation. They have always maintained good results in previous tests. Always. Molek accurately captured the key words. That means they have also participated in many Hunter tests. The so-called good grades are just a way for a loser in every test to flatter himself. Donba, you have summarized it very well. I hope you won't summarize it again. This is a sharp point, directly tearing off all the fig leaves on them. Donba swallowed his saliva and absolutely did not comment on this. In addition to the 3 of them who were too conspicuous, there was also Takudo, a professional wrestler with a bad temper. He began to introduce the other candidates taking the test, looking at a fat man wearing a purple coat and gray braids. His dream is to become a wanted bounty hunter, so it is just a dream. Molek nodded again. Donba. There is also Greta, who seems to be from a mysterious tribe. She is good at sneak attacks in the dark and has first-class blowgun skills. The hunter Greta, who has dark skin, thick lips, black goggles, and a double ball hairstyle. Also leaned quietly against the wall to put herself in a relatively safe environment. With his skin color, it seems a bit redundant to wear clothes in the dark. Molek once again made a sharp comment. Of course, he'd better not smile, otherwise his white teeth will show. Domba was a little numb and could only pretend not to hear and continued to analyze. There's also the snake charmer Scarpung, a veteran who has participated in the hunter test many times and is a guy who easily bears grudges. In addition, there is the monkey trainer Suomi, who is one of the few candidates who keeps a pet as an assistant. It is said that there is a female candidate named Peng Si. It is said that she raises a lot of bees. I don't know if it is true or not. With the slow introduction of a master Domba, he also thoroughly exposed the backgrounds of many candidates present. In addition to the candidates he introduced above, there are other familiar faces. For example, the martial artist Boudreaux, who will enter the final round next year, guessed the written test and was killed by Killua. There's also the mercenary Baiana warrior who shared a room with Boudreaux on Gunkanjima, who used a spear as a weapon, became the target of a Lumi during the 4th round of hunting, and ended up looking for Hisoka to challenge Go-Si. And the lucky man Bakuer, who staged a vivid hunting lesson for Xiaojia and his hunting target chief. And so on, many familiar faces in the hunter test. While listening, Molek opened the medium blind box of Domba. Got a medium blind box. Do you want to open it? Open successfully. Get Super Energy Drink Blink. Source: Happy Father and Son. Super Energy Bubble Egg. Post views: 515. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 044. Super Energy Drink. Blink 044 Super Energy Drink. Blink to Super Energy Drink? Molek couldn't help but sit up a little straight. Molek had an impression of Super Energy Drink and Happy Father and Son from this world of origin. This is a Q-version domestic animation, which tells a fun story between a pair of yellow-skinned father and son with special body shapes and different personalities. Hadad Aha and Pai ZZ. This is a world composed of residents, with a happy father and son live in a super metropolis with a dazzling array of goods like a supermarket. Hadad is a clerk at an energy company who specializes in producing super energy drinks and can produce all kinds of magical super energy drinks, including but not limited to the magic of being able to be invisible, flying, deformed, and many other special functions. Hadad is even the inventor. This time, Molek opened the Blink Super Energy Drink, which is his masterpiece. Super Energy Drink. Blink. Function: after taking a sip, as long as you close your eyes and open them again, you can reach where you want to go. P.S. The function will be affected by air quality. This kind of drink that seems to have the ability to teleport and has a great effect is a rare life-saving good thing, but that is without considering the impact of its function. Air quality is a very important factor that is restricted. Xiaopi planned to take Shuadanden to the amusement park with a drink, but unexpectedly ended up at Xiaoji's house. Principal Ji, who wanted to go home, accidentally drank Blink, but ended up in the trash can. The villain Shitongwei stole the drink, but ended up in the boundless sea after drinking it. It is precisely because of this big flaw that this item was only opened in the medium blind box. Otherwise, this kind of item that can move instantly must be of high or even special grade. But if this constraint could be removed, the value would be much higher. While thinking about how to get rid of the constraints, Molek glanced at Domba. Well, is it because this guy has a drink filled with laxatives in his arms, ready to frame people at any time, so the drink he opened is a super energy drink? As for the other familiar candidates, there are more or less white blind boxes around them. Molek will naturally collect these blind boxes one by one when he has the chance. And the candidate number 33 dressed as a clown, who no one dared to approach. Anyway, the blind box looks very tempting. Seeing the blind box with blue light next to Shisua again, Molek rubbed his chin. Previously, in the Sky Arena, the battle between Shisua and Hua, Shirt Dolang, gave birth to a high-level blind box. And now, he refreshed a medium-level blind box in the official venue where the hunter test has not yet begun. It can be seen that a simple person will not only refresh one blind box. There will be more than one and more than one level of blind boxes as the location and plot change. This is just right, and it has further strengthened Molek's determination to participate in and experience those major events. And just as Molek was thinking, there were also many vague glances cast over his side. Rookie killer Domba has always taken pleasure in attacking newcomers and crushing their dreams. I don't know how many newcomers he has destroyed in his past hunter tests, making them unable to rise again. This person is still very famous among many of their former repeat candidates. After all, he has been able to participate in more than 30 hunter tests with a very high mortality rate, and he has been safe and sound every time. Not to mention death. Even missing arms and legs rarely happens. This has to be said to be a very powerful skill, enough to show his ability. But now, rookie killer Domba seems to have been sanctioned by a newcomer. After so many hunter tests, has he finally hit the wall? He has provoked someone who seems to be the wrong person. And this year's newcomers seem to be a bit tricky. A group of people looked at Molek silently, and then remembered him firmly in their hearts. Ding-ling-a-ling. Suddenly, a rapid sound like a school bell rang above the venue. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? A broadcast came from a loudspeaker on the top of a dilapidated building, drawing everyone's attention. It seems that everyone can hear it. The loudspeaker muttered to itself. Let me see. So far, there are about 398 candidates to participate in this hunter test. There are less than 400 people, which seems to be just the right number. He grumbled. It's still a few dozen less than I expected. Well, never mind. The goal remains the same. I will try to eliminate more than half of the people in this first round of testing. Such a casual remark instantly made the examinees who were listening to the broadcast in the venue concentrate their eyes and perk up. Even the atmosphere in the venue began to become subtle. As you have heard, I am the examiner for this first round of testing. You call me just call me principal. The loudspeaker continued to broadcast, and it was obvious that the hunter examiner hiding behind the loudspeaker was unwilling to reveal his name and identity. The content of the first round of tests this year is very simple. Don't be afraid. Since you have come to this school and this stadium, then naturally the content of this test is sports meeting. The voice from the loudspeaker suddenly became louder. Now, everyone, look to your left front. Everyone subconsciously looked in the direction the loudspeaker said. Then, nothing. Oh, I said it wrong. It's actually at the right rear. Sorry. There was no apology in his words. A group of people complained in their hearts, and then turned around and looked back. There was a sports field that was wider than the one they were in now. In that place, there were many equipments, as well as some special venues and facilities for sport competitions. Post views. 544 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 045. Sports Meet. 045 Sports Meet. As you can see, this is the competition equipment I prepared specifically for this sports meet. The principal, in a loudspeaker, said passionately, Dear students, no candidates, what you see in front of you are some common events in sports games, such as basketball, badminton, table tennis, track and field, hurdles, high jump, long jump, shot put, discus, hammer throw, javelin, relay, and other events. The assessment and the way to pass are very simple. That is, the loudspeaker suddenly raised the volume. Get excellent rankings in these competitions. Candidates with excellent grades can easily pass this first round of tests. You can even pass the exam early and then stand by and cheer on the candidates who haven't passed yet. As for how to get an excellent ranking, you must first choose the event you want to compete in. The voice of the principal in the loudspeaker suddenly became serious. Because there are so many projects to do, our time is precious. 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to choose the event you want to participate in. When the time is up, it is assumed that you will participate in the event you are standing next to. Okay, without further ado, let's start. Tick tick. The clear sound of the second hand ticking was transmitted to every candidate through the loudspeaker. In an instant, the whole venue was in an uproar. According to your own situation, choose the event that suits you, right? Molek did not leave immediately. For him, it didn't matter which event he participated in. He first observed the choices of other candidates. For example, the heavyweight contestant Toda, who was a little fat, stood directly next to the shot put. Greta, who was good at blowing arrows, and Baku, who was extremely good at shooting, naturally chose archery. The mercenary Bayana warrior Go Si, who held a spear, stood next to the javelin with the belief that he would win. The martial artist Badaro chose hurdles. Hurdles, do you think you have good physical fitness? As for Dongba, he hid aside and watched Molek silently, and used the remaining peripheral vision to observe Shi Suo, who was leisurely placing playing cards there, waiting for the two of them to make a choice. I absolutely do not want to be in the same project with them. There are many candidates who have not made any moves like Dongba and Molek. They did not make a choice at the first time, but silently observed the movements of other candidates. Until the end of 5 minutes, they made the most suitable choice according to the situation of each project. For example, the relay project chosen by the three Moria brothers was rarely participated in. After all, everyone knows that with the tacit understanding of the three brothers, they are basically invincible in this kind of relay race. When the time was about to end, Shi Suo and Molek finally made their choices. Shi Suo twisted his slender waist and walked in a cat-like manner to the table tennis table. Ping pong, Molek took a look and then looked away. He did not doubt Hisoka's ability. With his strength, he would basically win no matter what event he chose. And ping pong is quite suitable for his telekinesis ability, stretchable love. He can turn his energy into chewing gum and stick it to the enemy, thereby restricting the enemy's movements. Not only can it stick to the enemy, but also to objects in his hand, such as a ping pong ball. Then on this small table, it can be said that everything is under his control. It can also be said that his opponents will be played around by him. This is also in line with his mind to play with his opponents. This is it. Molek walked to a place with few people and picked up the racket provided on the table and chair next to him. Not bad. After waving the tennis racket in his hand slightly, Molek nodded with satisfaction. Ping pong and tennis? The Dongbom master, who had already taken his place nearby, heaved a sigh of relief. This way, he could stand next to the discus with peace of mind. Looking at their figures, it's clear that neither of them is a strong player. He consoled himself in his heart and felt fortunate for his choice. Okay, time's up. When the 5 minutes were up, the loudspeaker called a halt. Candidates now, 367, 372, and 378. Since you are in a position where you cannot determine the items you have chosen, you will be deemed to have given up and will be eliminated directly. The originally passionate voice now fell into the ears of the crowd and only felt so cruel and ruthless. The three candidates who had just arrived at the venue at the end of the exam and were too hesitant to make a choice had pale faces. They opened their mouths and wanted to say something. But get out. The principal's majestic, powerful, and irrefutable voice sounded over the phone. The three candidates didn't say anything in the end. They all hung their heads and walked out of the venue dejectedly. This is actually a good thing for them. Some candidates watched coldly, while others shook their heads. In the upcoming Hunter test, which is full of dangers and may face danger at any time, it is better to quit now than to lose your life there. Post views. 557 start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 046. It's not fair. We are a Hunter association, not a weapons store. 046, it's not fair. We are the Hunter Association, not a weapons store. Well, the remaining students and candidates have decided on their projects, so our sports meet will begin soon. The principal's tone became excited again in the loudspeaker. Let me see the projects selected by the students and candidates. Well, the two events with the most candidates are track and field and shot put. It seems that everyone is confident in their strength and speed. Rather than being confident, it is safer than competing in other events. Sports like basketball and badminton require extremely high technical levels, so it is more enjoyable and relaxing to compete directly in speed and strength. Many candidates have chosen events with relatively clear and simple rules. At the same time, many candidates think that the more people choose track and field and shot put, the more qualified people will be screened out. With this idea in mind, and the confidence that they must be better than most candidates and can successfully stand out from this event, they chose this event. It can only be said that everyone has their own thoughts and plans. In this case, the principal's voice gradually became playful over the loudspeaker. So, from a side perspective, can I understand that these candidates, except for their confidence in their own strength and speed, are relatively weak in other aspects? Upon hearing this, the candidates who chose track and field and shot put events suddenly had a bad premonition in their hearts. Sure enough, the next moment, we are a hunter test, and we want to select outstanding talents in all aspects. If it is just strength and speed, I think it is not enough, unless he is particularly outstanding. So snap. A sound of snapping fingers seemed to come from the loudspeaker. For the two events of shot put and track and field, we don't need too many people. Only 40 people are enough. Hey. The scene was immediately in an uproar. How could that be? Are you kidding me? Didn't we say that it was only half? Some candidates who chose these two projects were immediately shocked because there were almost 200 candidates who chose these two projects. This means that the passing rate is almost 1/5 or even lower. It's very simple. Just select 40 for these two events and more for the other events, right? The voice in the loudspeaker was very casual, just like the air rifle event, because there is only candidate no. 121 participating in the competition. Candidate number 121 has no opponent and advances directly. Everyone's eyes immediately looked in one direction. There, a beautiful woman wearing sunglasses, a dashing black dress, and blonde hair stood there. When she heard the good news that she had passed, her beautiful face immediately showed a charming smile. Unfairness, one candidate shouted angrily. The air rifle event did not provide any competition equipment, and she was the only one who brought a gun. Of course, she is the only one participating in this event. Well, behind this blonde beauty, there's a sniper rifle that is quite distinctive and hard to ignore. We are the Hunter Association, not a weapons store. The voice in the loudspeaker said as a matter of course. We certainly won't do things like providing firearms or other hot weapons. Then why is there this event in the sports festival? Of course, it's because there is such a competition in the Olympic Games. This time, the loudspeaker explained patiently. The contestants all bring their own equipment, so candidate number 121 can bring his own firearms to participate in this event. That's why they can stand out and fully meet the requirements of qualification. But some people continued to pester. You need to bring your own equipment for table tennis and tennis, so why can you provide it here? Because those are sports equipment. The loudspeaker's subtle tone was as if he was looking at a bunch of fools. Have you ever seen any decent school that doesn't have a gymnasium, and a gymnasium that doesn't have basic sports equipment like table tennis rackets and tennis rackets? Questioning candidates. We didn't go to school much, right? They also realized that no matter what they said, this faceless examiner called principal would always have reasons and excuses waiting for them. And if they questioned again, the other party might get impatient and make some weird rules. Therefore, they could only silently hold back all the subsequent words. Okay, no more unnecessary words. Let's start the sports meeting now. The loudspeaker said with anticipation. So first of all, let's start with, well, that's all we can do. A group of candidates who chose track and field and shot put all looked unhappy as they prepared to start warming up. Hurdles. The candidates who were preparing to warm up for the shot put and track and field events almost stumbled and fell to the ground. I only mentioned the number of qualified candidates for track and field and shot put, but I didn't say they would start the competition first. As if predicting what the candidates are going to say, the loudspeaker made another statement. And when the candidates were about to question again, it immediately made a patch. The hurdles competition is about to begin. If you have any further objections, you'll be deemed not to participate in this games and will be eliminated directly. Post views. 469, start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 047. These two young men have no moral principles. 047, these two young men have no moral principles. Track and field and shot put candidates. They don't even let people speak. You are discriminating, right? The candidates of these two events who dared not speak out could only step aside and watch others' competitions. First, they explained that the number of qualified candidates was very small, which gave the candidates a sense of urgency. and then they were left aside to compete in other events. Molek saw the situation clearly from the side. Then the group of candidates could only wait patiently, observing the situation of the candidates in the same project, and anxiously waiting for the end of other projects so that their own projects could begin. This period is undoubtedly tormenting. It depends on who can endure it. This examiner is quite interesting, of course. It is not ruled out that he really discriminates against track and field and shot put. As an outsider who had nothing to do with the matter, Molek saw it clearly. The candidates who chose other projects were glad that their projects were not very competitive, but they also realized the examiner's intention. However, this was a good thing for them. Some people even looked at the first candidate who passed the first round of the test with envy and jealousy. Number 121, Sheba. Molek couldn't help but look at the female sniper who was dressed similarly to him. He also had an impression of this candidate, Sheba, a peculiar name. In the Hunter test next year, the number plate she got was 80. In the Battleship Island chapter, she was responsible for shooting the huge rocks to create space for everyone to escape. But in the fourth round of the hunting test, because the target was Illumi, who was aliased as Jitalagu, she hid in the dark and wanted to snipe him. But she was killed by the opponent, and then her number plate was snatched away and thrown to Hisoka. There were not many scenes of her appearance, but that heroic spirit, the strength, is quite good. It also left some good impressions on Molek. Soon, the hurdle competition officially began after the players stood still. The top 3 candidates with the best scores in the hurdle competition were selected to qualify. This time, there were 4 familiar people participating: the snake charmer Scar Pung, the monkey trainer Suomi, the beekeeper Pung Si, and the martial artist Boudreaux. Well, 3 people who have helpers to play with animals, plus a gray-haired martial artist. Molek remembered that before the last round of tests next year, the remaining few people gathered together to discuss the final test content and seek experience from those who had experienced it. Well, I was eliminated in the first round of tests last year. Boudreaux answered calmly. In other words, the result of this round of tests was already very clear. Sure enough, after the loudspeaker announced the start of the competition, the contestants on the field had already come up with their own unique tricks. Gigi, the monkey trainer Suomi's partner, King Gigi, took the lead and rushed out, knocking down all the hurdles in front of him. Then, by the way, he put them on the track of other candidates to block their progress. Is this okay? Some honest candidates suddenly widened their eyes. Idiot, the examiner only said that we can have a competition for this project, but he didn't say that we can't take other measures. The old students who have participated in several tests and know the true meaning of the Hunter test said disdainfully. It is precisely because they understand this truth that old students like Suomi and Scar Pung chose this track that they can control. Hiss. Countless poisonous snakes swarmed out from under Scar Pung's feet. On the one hand, he imitated Suomi's King Gigi and moved the barriers on the road in front of him to the track of other candidates. On the other hand, he simply lay on other tracks and acted as a roadblock. Boudreaux, the martial artist who seemed to be the most threatening, was the focus of the 2 people's attention. The road ahead of him was full of barriers and poisonous snakes. Boudreaux, these 2 young men have no moral principles. Come, cheat, come, sneak attack. I an old comrade with gray hair. Boudreaux's pace of progress was deeply trapped. Pung Si on the track next to him easily passed through various obstacles. It was in sharp contrast with him. In the end, there was no doubt that the 3 players who got good results in the hurdles and passed the first round of tests were Pung Si, Suomi, and Ba Pung. Boudreaux with gray hair could only sigh at the group of venomous snakes in front of him and choose to come again next year. The hurdles competition was a good start for this first round of tests. Subsequent competitions in other events were also held one after another. Relay archery, discus still, those familiar faces stood out. The 3 brothers of Amori advanced easily with the tacit understanding between brothers. Greta and Bakur won the competition easily with their archery skills. The fat muscles of the great Domba still had some strength, and the discus he threw easily surpassed most of the candidates. One event after another was carried out, which made the candidates of track and field and shot put events feel more and more depressed. It seemed that they were just going to be cheerleaders and atmosphere groups on the sidelines, and it would be their turn after the other events were tested. For example, now, the table tennis event has already started, but it was from this event that things began to go differently. In front of the table, Hisoka, who was already in position, threw the ball on the table and it bounced back into his hand. Bring It On, a tall and thin candidate sitting opposite him, was full of energy and confidence. I have won the table tennis championship in our city for 3 consecutive years. In terms of skills, no one can rival me. Post views, 499. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 048. Card. Fireball 048 card. Fireball Tada. With the last sound, Hisoka chuckled and threw the yellow ping-pong ball in his hand into the air. It's coming. Ha! A serve with a fairly fast speed was hit towards the opposite side. No wonder he chose table tennis. He seems to be an expert too. The tall and thin candidate was not surprised, but happy when he saw this scene. But this level is still far behind me. Look at my overlord twist. Ha! He threw a backhand, and the ping-pong ball was immediately given a violent spin, making a squeaking sound, and flew towards Hisoka. No one could take on my twist. The tall and thin man looked confident, but the next second, his expression froze. Bang! The ping-pong ball was hit back at a faster speed and with a more violent rotation. Is it called Ba Wang Yang? It's a good name. Hisoka seemed to show a little bit of interest on his face. He looked at the tall and thin man who was in a panic and didn't respond to his replay. So, what other tricks do you have? Hisoka licked his lips gently and said, "Just do it." The tall and thin candidate. His ultimate move was easily broken by the opponent. You make the tall and thin candidate uttered a few words in his throat. Also the tyrant twist. Hisoka easily replicated the move he was so proud of. Is this a difficult thing? Hisoka had a clown-like playful smile on his face, and the table tennis racket was spinning in his hand. For him, this was not a difficult thing at all. In the trap tower of the Hunter test next year, he faced last year's Hunter examiner who came to seek revenge on him. The opponent used the four-sword style that he had practiced for half a year and successfully cut Hisoka's shoulder. But within a few seconds, Hisoka easily took on the four-sword style and casually demonstrated it in front of him. Even the so-called high-skill four-sword style is not a difficult task in front of Hisoka, not to mention some table tennis techniques. It means that Hisoka still has some fun in mind. Otherwise, damn it. When the tall and thin candidate saw that his unique skill was learned, a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. Don't underestimate me. My moves are not that easy to learn, bastard. It was his turn to serve. He threw the ball high into the sky and then swung the racket hard and hit it out. Bang! The ping-pong ball spun at high speed and pointed directly at Hisoka's face. He was aiming at Hisoka's face. This is because he thinks he has lived too long. Donba and other candidates who could see how scary Shisu all shook their heads when they saw this scene. It's really rare to see someone who is so desperate to die. Oh, I want to play a little longer. The smile on Hisoka's face did not change. But as he spoke carelessly, he tightened his grip on the racket in his hand. And then bang! The ping-pong ball flew back at a speed that was difficult to catch with the naked eye. Puff! Before the tall and thin man could react at all, a big hole had already been opened on his head. Puff! The unconscious body swayed on the spot and then fell to the ground weakly. This is a Hunter test. Molek watched the whole scene without any fluctuation in his eyes. Even if it is a test for the sports meeting, it is still a Hunter test with life and death in the final analysis. If you're not prepared, you'd better go home and take a shower. The subsequent development of the matter is exactly the same. After the loudspeaker only heard the news that candidate number 33 passed, there was nothing else. No one would care about the tall and thin candidate who died. That is, after Hisoka's ball took away a life, the atmosphere of the whole venue changed abruptly. Even if you kill someone, you can pass. This is also a reason for the remaining candidates to do whatever it takes to pass the project. The scene gradually began to become a little bloody. Molek watched coldly, waiting for the start of his project. At the same time, he also collected and opened many blind boxes present. Received a regular blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully opened. Gain 5 cubic meters of storage space. Receive a regular blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully opened. Obtained combat training equipment. Received a regular blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully activated. Obtain hook rolling punch. There are all kinds of things such as storage space, fighting training equipment, and some rough and crude moves. After all, they were ordinary white blind boxes, and Molek didn't have too high expectations for them. On the contrary, the blue medium blind box next to Hisoka gave Molek something different. Got a medium blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully opened. Obtained card Fireball. Source World, Beastmaster, another Chinese comic. Molek looked at the Fireball card in the storage space, which awakened some of his long-lost memories. Post views. 481 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 049. This man in a suit is not someone you can mess with. 049 This man in a suit is not easy to mess with. The King of Beast Tamers tells the story of a world full of fantasy beasts, where beastmasters can fight by controlling the beasts. The means of fighting and controlling the beasts are on those strange cards. The reason why Molek has an impression is that the plot of this domestic animation with 2 parts is really good. Secondly, in the second part, the male protagonist Kixiang takes his fantasy beast Momo to participate in the professional beastmaster assessment, which is somewhat similar to the Hunter test. For example, in the first round of the beastmaster test, you have to defeat 5 opponents before you can enter the next round. This is basically the same as the first round of Hunter test the year after next. The difference is that Killua swept the whole field alone and basically ended the test in 1 round. So during this test, did the Beastmaster card appear next to Hisoka, who was playing cards? Fireball card, the most commonly used move of the protagonist Kixiang's fantasy beast Momo, spewing flaming fireballs. Well, it seems to be no different from the fireball technique in a certain Naruto. After all, it is just a medium-sized blind box. What else can you expect to get a spell card? As for this fireball card, it is mostly placed in the corner of the storage space. Occasionally, when I think of it or need to make a fire, I will take it out. Time passed slowly, and one event after another was carried out alternately. It was finally time for Molek to choose tennis. When he walked towards the tennis court with a racket provided, his opponent was already waiting there. A guy with thick eyebrows, big eyes, a big nose, wearing a purple-brown cape, a samurai sword at his waist. Dressed like a ronin, he seems to be called aging. Molek looked at the passerby's face and remembered him. Although he looks insignificant, he is actually a good player who can pass the trap tower and enter the 4th round of hunting test in next year's Hunter test. It's just a pity that this extra named aging was hunted by Hisoka, who became overly excited after being stimulated by Kurapika and Leorio. But it was also during the hunting process that Xiaojia also saw this opportunity and took advantage of the opportunity to hook Hisoka's number plate from his chest. At this time, the swordsman dressed as a Ronin samurai stood on the opposite side with Molek, who was wearing a classic gangster suit. This confrontation between the two also caused some surrounding candidates to confront each other. Is that a Gung? Is he competing with the man in the suit? We have all seen a Gung's swordsmanship, so playing tennis should be no problem for him, right? It's hard to say. This man in a suit made Dongbao fall into his hands. Who knows? He might be a powerful character, like candidate number 33 who was playing poker just now. Yeah, almost. What? I found out about candidate number 33. His name is Hisoka. He is a well-known player on the 200th floor of the Sky Arena. Of course, he must have very formidable strength. I asked around about the man in the suit, but no one had any impression of him. Stop arguing. Who is better between the two? Just watch and see. The people around were talking about it, saying all kinds of things. It also attracted more people's attention and cast curious eyes in this direction. Even Hisoka, who was playing poker leisurely after the game, glanced in this direction. The novel was taken from the Rala's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. At the same time, it's a pity to fall like this. However, You should come back for the next test next year." Without much nonsense, Molek, who was serving, threw the ball up and bang. In an instant, the tennis ball seemed to turn into a golden cannonball, and it flew towards Agung, whose face changed greatly. He subconsciously wanted to raise the racket to block his chest, but unfortunately, before his body movements could catch up, the cannonball tennis ball was already in front of him. Crack! Bang! The tennis racket in Agung's hand broke directly, and the whole person was driven by the powerful impact of the tennis ball, which had not weakened at all, and flew to the wall behind him. Dong! The whole person's body was almost embedded in the wall. The cracks of a spider web started from his position and slowly spread outward. Snap! The golden tennis ball fell to the ground, and under the dull eyes of the crowd, it rolled slowly. There was no damage. Gurgle. Many candidates who were paying attention to this side rolled their throats in unison. Is this a tennis ball? Some people looked at the aging embedded in the wall and the cracked wall and couldn't help muttering. It's not an exaggeration to call it a killer tennis ball, right? Originally, they came here because they noticed Agung and the strangeness in the way Molek and Dongba were getting along. As an outstanding swordsman, Agung had participated in several hunter tests before and was a bit unlucky among the candidates. Although Molek was a newcomer, he defeated Dongba, who was known as the newcomer killer, as soon as he arrived. He was obviously a very difficult character to mess with. Originally, everyone wanted to see what kind of sparks would be created when these two met, and to see Molek's true strength. But they didn't expect that they could see something. But this was a crushing match. The swordsman Agung had no power to fight back in front of the young man in a black suit. He was like a child, unable to resist or deal with him. Moreover, the opponent only used a small tennis ball to beat Agung like this. If he really picked up a weapon, if you come to a head-on confrontation, this man in a suit, extremely difficult to deal with in this hunter test, you must not be enemies with Hisoka and the man in a suit. A group of people looked at Agung, who couldn't get out of the wall for a long time in silence. They also saw the broken wall with spiderweb cracks spreading outwards. They all said firmly in their hearts, "Post views, 464 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 050. He said he would come back next year. What does that mean? 050, he said he would come back next year. What does that mean?" Fortunately, in the crowd, Dongba, who was hiding in the crowd, frantically wiped the sweat flowing down his head. "Fortunately, I didn't do anything unwise." Recalling his previous very sensible behavior, Master Dongba breathed a sigh of relief. He was over 40 years old, but he had participated in more than 30 hunter tests. His control over danger was really perfect. He knew when to follow his heart and when to bow his head. It was because of this that he could live safely until now. "Click, what are you thinking about?" A familiar touch came from his shoulder, and the voice that left a deep impression on him echoed in his ears. Dongba's figure once again froze in place. "No, nothing." He turned his head like a machine and just happened to meet Molek's dull eyes. He immediately revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. "I'm happy for you, Mr. Molek. Congratulations on passing the first round of tests. There is nothing to be happy about." Molek shook his head as a matter of course. "The level of candidates for this year's hunter test is worse than I thought." He looked at Agung, who had not come out of the wall yet, and a hint of disappointment flashed in his eyes. In the previous ball, although he had the idea of eliminating the opponent, he had already saved his strength. Unexpectedly, he still couldn't hold on for even one ball. This made those who wanted to try outspin serve wave ball. Molek was a little disappointed with the special moves like Tiger Roar that didn't sound like tennis skills. It felt like punching cotton. I thought the opponent could at least pass the trap tower and should be able to withstand more beatings. In the end, he didn't even catch a single ball. "Why don't you say that you are a monster compared to other candidates?" Dongba secretly complained in his heart, but on the surface he rubbed his hands and showed a flattering smile. "That's because the other party hasn't yet mastered the cultivation. If this is the level you are at, you should go back and practice more." Mr. Molek, by doing this, you are helping him to recognize the cruelty of the hunter test, as well as his own shortcomings and the gap between him and other candidates. Eliminating him in advance is good for him. To prevent him from dying in the subsequent tests due to lack of level and ability and losing his life in vain. Donba couldn't continue talking. He found that Molek was looking up at him. What's the matter, Mr. Molek? Nothing, Molek shook his head. I just think you are worthy of being a senior student who can participate in so many hunter tests. Not only what you do, but even what you say is so pleasant to the ear. Molek casually patted his shoulder and said, I will definitely come to see you again next year when I come again. Thank you for the compliment. Donba was confused and responded subconsciously. Then he reacted instantly. Wait, he said he would come back next year. What does that mean? Donba raised his head and looked at Molek. But he found that the other party was resting with his eyes closed and no longer chatting with him. And he did not have the courage to disturb the other party. So he could only suppress this question silently. At this time, after Molek's tennis event ended, several rounds of other events were held. Finally, it came to the track and field and shot put events that everyone was looking forward to. Track and field events are simple. If there are many participants, we don't need to occupy the track. The principal, in the loudspeaker, simply and roughly explained the rules. The same goes for the shot put event. There isn't enough space for so many of you to throw the shot put together. What's more, you have all been waiting for such a long time. You must be getting impatient, right? So the sound of the trumpet became more and more playful. Then let's have a simple, efficient, and unique sports event. The candidates participating in track and field and shot put stood at the eastern and western ends of the stadium respectively. The track and field candidates will run from east to west, while the shot put candidates will throw the shot from west to east. The trumpet continued to sound words that made the two groups of candidates look even more embarrassed. I said we take 40 people, so we'll split the two events in half. The first 20 track and field students to arrive at the west venue will pass. The top 20 shot put test takers who throw the farthest will also pass. At this point, the loudspeaker paused and said, Of course, this is a bit too boring. Therefore, I intend to add an additional new rule. Hearing the voice, everyone seemed to be able to see the guy behind the speaker, his face full of evil humor and his big white teeth showing from the corners of his grinning mouth. If the shot put test taker can throw the shot put into the track and field test taker who is running towards him, that's also considered passing. On the other hand, if the track and field test takers can catch the shot put thrown to them, they will also be considered qualified. Moreover, these do not occupy the original 20 qualified places, but are additional, so you have to think about how to choose to pass the level. As soon as the words were spoken, in just a moment, the solemn atmosphere in the entire venue was raised to several levels. Are you kidding me? Some track and field students couldn't accept it. Doesn't this mean that we have to compete with people in the same event in terms of speed and also avoid the shot put that might hit us? If you're not careful, you will not only lose the game, but also your life. Post views. 481 start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 051. He throws him, and he dodges. He hits him, and he runs. He can't escape even if he has wings 051. He throws him, and he dodges. He hits him, and he runs. He can't escape even if he has wings. Some people there can't accept it, while others face it coldly. But if you're strong enough to catch the flying shot or outrun others, there will be no problem. That's right, the candidates in the shot put event. On the other hand, all showed cruel smiles on their faces. To put it bluntly, if you really can't pass, it only means that you are not capable enough, and you can't blame others. Takudo, the fighter representing the shot put event, pressed the knuckles on his hands, making a crisp sound. So, instead of complaining about the rules, it is better to think about whether to continue testing or give up early. If you quit early, you might not be hit by the shot put. His words immediately aroused the dissatisfaction of the track and field project team. Who's complaining? That's it. Do you think you are so great? Just a bunch of idiots with nothing but strength. Before the test started, the two groups of people were already arguing. Split. Molek opened his eyes slightly after hearing the noise. Through this rule, the track and field group and the shot put group are on opposite sides. Judging from the rules, the shot put group has a clear advantage. At least they don't have to risk being hit by the shot put. Then the track and field team will naturally feel unbalanced, and it will be easy to provoke disputes. In terms of the rules, the track and field group is not known for its strength. Rather than catching the shot put, They are more concerned about how to outrun others in the group. The shot put group needs to weigh and consider the two aspects of hitting people and throwing far, and make the right choice based on their own abilities. This examiner is quite something. Although I didn't see what kind of guy this principal behind the loudspeaker was, he should be a pretty powerful professional hunter. Molek closed his eyes again. What does that have to do with him? Anyway, he has passed the first round of tests, and the rest of the competition has nothing to do with him. The last event of the first round of tests will be over in a short time. It is better to adjust the state and prepare for the next second round of tests in advance, just as Molek thought. This round of tests did not take long. After the members of both project teams stood in place, this unique competition began. The candidates of the track and field group ran towards the other side with all their strength, and they had to keep an eye on the shot put that fell from the sky. The people in the shot put group were so powerful that they didn't care whether they would hit anyone or not, and they all threw in the farthest direction. The remaining candidates, who felt that they could not break into the top 20, would look back and forth at the running track and field candidates with their cruel and ruthless eyes. Looking for the candidates they thought they could be hit. Then, whoosh, the shot put left his hand and fell towards the candidates one by one. Boom! The sound of the falling object, the noise of the object hitting the examinee, and accompanied by the wailing of the candidates, all rang out. There were even more candidates who were hit and fell to the ground without making a sound. They seemed to be playing a hellish elegy on this sports field. The track and field group gritted their teeth and rushed to the opposite side with all their strength. And the first round of shot put rain was not the end. In order to grasp the accuracy of the hit at close range, some candidates in the shot put group waited for the opponent to get close before shooting. The track and field group candidates running in the front were all the fastest ones. The remaining members of the shot put group who had not thrown naturally let them go and aimed at the lagging guys who were running and dodging from behind and were running out of energy. However, those guys were not fools. After seeing that they had no hope of passing the level, they immediately ran out of the field. They would never become a living target for those guys on the opposite side. He threw and he dodged. He hit and he ran. He couldn't escape even if he had wings and short. After a lot of farce, this first round of testing has officially come to an end. A total of 64 people passed the two projects. The principal behind the loudspeaker saw the number of people who passed the test clearly. Adding the number of people who passed the other projects, the total number of people who passed the first round of testing is 126. Well, it's not bad as I expected. More than half of the members were eliminated. The principal was very satisfied with the result of the sports meet he organized. This is more than half, more than 2/3. The candidates who finally passed the exam kept complaining in their hearts. Well, that's it for the first round of tests. The second round of tests will be held at the entrance to the back mountain behind the school. There will be examiners waiting for you there. That's it. See you next time if there's a chance. Click. As soon as the words fell, the sound of the loudspeaker was instantly cut off, as if it didn't want to stay even for a second. The group of candidates who were still in the venue were left speechless. No, it can't be said that they were speechless. The candidates who belonged to the track and field group stared at the candidates in the shot put group. They couldn't just pretend that the rain of shot puts that fell just now didn't happen. The latter also stared back without fear. Maybe in the next second, there would be a fight on the scene. In this tense atmosphere, I forgot to mention that. At this time, the loudspeaker suddenly came out with the voice of principal. Candidates who fail to arrive before dark will be considered eliminated. Eliminated candidates should not stay here. Otherwise, it will be regarded as hindering the normal test and will be disqualified from participating in the hunter test. Hurry up and get going. Candidates, click. Post views. 483. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 052. Second round of testing. Red umbrella and white pole. 052. Second round of testing. Red umbrella and white pole. The loudspeaker was hung up again, and everyone subconsciously looked up. The sports meet had gone through so many events, and time had already passed quickly. The sky had dimmed at this time. An array of afterglow from the sky was about to fall on the earth. Seeing this, no one dared to delay. They had to suppress their dissatisfaction and hostility first, and began to run quickly towards the back mountain behind the school. Those candidates who were eliminated would also be handled by the staff of the Hunter Association. Under the setting sun that was about to appear, a group of candidates were running on the road, as if it was their lost youth. Anyway, with the help of this large group of more than 100 people, they successfully arrived at the entrance of the forest behind the school before dark. There, someone was already waiting for them. More than 120 people? That's a pretty good number. On a large rock, a figure sitting upright slowly opened his eyes. "I am the examiner for your second round of tests." This man was wearing a white training suit with a serious expression. The untidy beard at the corner of his mouth did not make him look sloppy, but made him look more mature. Still looks so familiar. Molek narrowed his eyes, looked up and down at the bearded uncle, and then, it's him. A figure flashed through his mind, and Molek remembered it. At this time, the bearded uncle also began to introduce himself. "My name is Ezreal." He crossed his arms, his expression still serious. "The second round of testing will be held in the jungle behind me." "No, it's Izanabi. He is Kurapika's teacher." After passing the hunter test, it was Izanabi who taught Kurapika the knowledge related to his nin ability. Facing Kurapika, this extremely stubborn apprentice, Izanabi not only has unparalleled patience, but also has foresight beyond ordinary people. He also proposed restrictions and oaths to help Kurapika shape a very powerful ability based on the red eyes. Although the absolute time of the red eyes gains power by consuming life, it is a bit misguided. But that is the result of Kurapika's own choice. It is quite difficult for Izanabi to bend him into this state based on his own special circumstances. Later, at the invitation of Kurapika, he accepted the employment of the 7th prince of the Kaken Empire and became an undercover agent planted next to him. Although there are not many scenes in which he appears, he is also a familiar face in the later comics. At least, Molek glanced at the white blind box next to the other party. This blind box can't be faked. The content of the test is very simple. In a Lalfa forest behind me, there's a rare mushroom called Lalfa Red Mushroom. All you need to do is pick it and bring it to me intact. Izanabi introduced the rules in a deep voice. The time is before the sun rises, because the Lalfa Red Mushroom only appears at night, and once it senses a slight strong light, it will immediately shrink back. And because it emits a very fragrant spore when it emerges at night, it will attract many beasts and monsters, so it will grow next to another kind of scarlet poisonous fungus to confuse and protect itself. Scarlet poisonous fungi contain a highly toxic substance, and if you are not careful, you will be infected through the skin. The toxins contained in it are enough to kill 5 elephants. As far as I know, a famous gourmet hunter went in to pick mushrooms some time ago. In her words, there were less than 100 Lalfa Red mushrooms left. So, I wish you good luck, candidates. Izanabi didn't waste any time and announced directly in a concise manner. The second round of tests officially begins. After saying that, he didn't care whether the examinees could react or not, and sat back on the big rock again, posing as if he came here just to be a tool to read out the rules. Is the quiet and dark forest full of unknown dangers? Molek glanced through the entrance at the dark environment in the forest. Although there are clues, the Lalfa Red Mushroom will release a strange fragrance. But the fragrance attracted many wild beasts and fierce animals who wanted to snatch the mushrooms from their hands. And you have to distinguish between poisonous mushrooms and red mushrooms to avoid confusion and poisoning yourself. At the same time, the number is small, and we have to be on guard against other candidates who are waiting behind us. In one night, in this dark, unrestricted forest stage, anything could happen. As Molek looked through it, he collected the white blind box next to Izanabi. Received a regular blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully opened, obtained, picking climbing tools. Source world, clever IQ. Molek IQ? Monk? Well, it's true that the white training clothes that Izanabi is wearing are quite similar to the monk clothes that IQ and his friends wear. The picking tools can also be used to shovel mushrooms. Molek shook his head and followed the other candidates, who entered the forest one after another. The entire Lalfa forest is not big, but not small either. According to Molek's preliminary observation, it is estimated that the ecological environment of the forest is similar to that of Whale Island, where Xiaojie is. Among the beasts and monsters in the forest of Whale Island, the most ferocious is the Swamp King underwater and the roar along with the roar of wild beasts coming from the depths of the forest. There were also screams from the candidates. Apparently, they had encountered a very dangerous creature in this forest, the fox bear. If it is a fox bear, it is indeed the best test for a candidate. In Molek's sight, a 2-meter-tall fox bear in front of him was staring at him intently. Post views 437 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 053. It's a pleasure to come across such delicious apples and meet such interesting people. 053, what a pleasure it is to encounter such delicious apples and such interesting people. A fox bear is a beast that has the agility and cunning of a fox and the strength of a bear. It is very hostile to humans and often chooses to attack when encountering one. It is very dangerous and cannot be tamed. However, this beast is very suitable for testing whether a human can become a qualified hunter. Jindu specially placed Xiaojiao on Whale Island, where fox bears roam the forest, to train him. Kate and Xiaojia also met because of fox bear. This beast can be said to be a standard background beast. The only shortcoming is that it is impossible to tell who is the hunter and who is the prey. Plop. Molek shook his hands and glanced at the fallen fox bear. I overestimated my wisdom and strength. Fox bears are creatures with the cunning of foxes and often think that they are smarter and more powerful than the prey they are targeting. Because of this, they often fall into the traps of humans who are inferior to them. Molek stepped over the huge body of the fox bear, took 2 steps forward, and smelled a fragrance at the tip of his nose. This fragrance in this quiet, dark forest is like a torch in the darkness, very eye-catching, or it can be said to wake up the nose. When Molek smelled the fragrance and rushed to the scene, someone had already arrived early. Is it him? The 3 candidates present were still on guard against each other, but when they saw Molek coming, their faces changed drastically. Molek was not the only one who came here after smelling this smell, but he was one of the most difficult, dangerous, and least wanted people to meet. What a coincidence! Bakur, who was carrying a bow and arrow, gritted his teeth and tightened the bow and arrow in his hand, and then let it go weakly. Shasha, he didn't say much, and directly plunged into the jungle next to him and evacuated decisively. As a hunter's instinct, he knew that the man in front of him was not someone he could deal with. Instead of giving up his life here for no reason, it would be better to look for other safer red mushrooms. Bakumer's choice was decisive, but the remaining 2 candidates were hesitant. They looked like they wanted to leave, but were reluctant to leave. Get lost. Molek looked at the 2 men expressionlessly. Isn't that too domineering? CC Tour, with long black hair and narrowed eyes, looked unhappy. There's not just one mushroom here, so it's okay for us to take one, right? That's right. The girl next to him, Jinmei, with a short black crew cut and small slits in her eyes, also nodded. Anyone who sees it gets a share, especially since we were here first. He pointed to the red mushroom colony growing on the tree in front of him and said, "Before I get serious, I'll give you 5 seconds to get out of my sight." Molek calmly took out the collector from his waist and held it in his hand. 5, 4. Seeing that Molek really started to count down, CC Tour and Jinmei's faces changed instantly. Without saying anything more, they immediately rushed out in different directions. With such eyesight, no wonder they were all eliminated by Hanzo next year. It is almost their limit to make it to the 4th round of tests. Molek put away the collector and walked towards the mushroom group. CC Tour and Jinmei both fell into the hands of the ninja Hanzo in the hunt of the 4th round of tests next year. The number tags on their bodies were all taken away by Hanzo. Among them, Jinmei was the worst. After her number tag was taken away by Hanzo, she was targeted by Donba again. After she said that her number tag was taken away by Hanzo, Donba sat on her face on the beach as if to vent his anger. They are all acquaintances who have been back for a while, and they will meet again next year. Molek walked in the colony and looked at the mushrooms around him. It is undeniable that this pile of bright red mushrooms together has a good visual impact. Such mushrooms are basically first-level hallucinogens in Molek's world. There are so many red mushrooms. There must be one that is the target, right? Molek took out Ikkiyu's picking shovel and shoveled all the colonies on the tree. Izanabe only said that he should take the Ralpha red mushroom back and be careful of the scarlet toadstools growing around it. He didn't say that he couldn't take the scarlet poisonous mushrooms with him. So, as long as he shoveled away all these mushrooms and took them back, as long as there was one Ralpha red mushroom among them, he would still be qualified. Swish! Molek waved his hand and collected all the mushrooms. Oh, they're all gone. Did they hide somewhere? Suddenly, a light laugh sounded behind Molek. Didn't you see it clearly? Molek was not surprised by the movement behind him. You've been watching from behind for such a long time. Didn't you notice anything? He turned around and looked at the man who was slowly emerging from behind and said calmly, "Did you notice?" Well, it's hard not to notice when a pervert is staring at you from behind. Under the moonlight, Hisoka swung his waist and walked out of the shadows. His eyes, which were as hot as if he was looking at some rare and precious fruit, were really chilling. Sure enough, it was the right choice for me to come here to take the hunter test. The Joker card was pinched between his fingertips, and his tongue licked the edge of his lips gently. A strong layer of thoughts gradually entangled Hisoka's body. I am so happy to meet such delicious apples and such interesting people. The telekinesis wrapped around the cards in my hand, as if it could tear apart the surrounding air. Post views 479 start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 054. It seems that I really have no secrets in front of you, 054. It seems that I really have no secrets in front of you. You want to fight me, right? Molek's expression was still calm. He had anticipated such a scene and development before participating in the hunter test. With Hisoka's perverted nature of seeking to challenge the strong for fun, it would be difficult for him not to attract the other party's attention. What's more, in the last round of tests, Molek felt Hisoka's gaze. This forest, where there is no scruple and anything can happen, is simply the best natural place to come to the door. In the distance, the screams of the candidates were faintly heard, and there were also some shouting and cursing. The grudge between the shot put group and the track and field group in the last round was also the best place to resolve it. Do you know who I am and understand me? Molek said in a low voice, looking at Shisuo, who was approaching step by step. Are these important? Hisoka asked back. In fact, the more unknown it is, the more extraordinary fun it can bring him, making him feel more excited. Isn't it important? Molek looked at Shisuo and suddenly smiled. She saw a player above the 200th floor of the Sky Arena is good at using playing cards as a weapon and calls himself an omnipotent magician. Molek muttered to himself. These were the news that Shisuo had revealed publicly, which could not stop him at all. But then born in Meteor City, currently a member of the Phantom Troop, number 4. He is erratic, deceitful, likes bloody battles, and is a pervert. But he is definitely not the kind of person who kills innocent people for no reason. He has calm and correct judgment when fighting, and will not let his opponent see his weaknesses under any circumstances. However, when you lose your composure, your excitement reaches its peak. When you enter the state, you will exude a murderous aura. The goal of life is to find prey, and the interest is to cultivate strong enemies and then defeat them. In other words, he would look for a person who is worthy of fighting, likening him to a green apple, and wait patiently until that person grew up to be worth killing. Have absolute self-confidence and always believe that you are the strongest, constantly pursuing duels. You look forward to your own fall or the opponent's fall, both of which can allow you to enjoy the pleasure you have been pursuing. The pleasure of destroying the apple that I had been looking forward to with my own hands. After Molek finished speaking, Shisuo had already stood still without any movement to move forward. Oh, it seems that I am understood so thoroughly. The excited smile on Hisoka's face has now completely disappeared. It's really surprising. He narrowed his teardrop-like eyes. I didn't know there was someone in this world who understood me so well. I really don't know whether I should be happy or, Shisuo said slowly, Should I be angry? Before he could finish the word anger, the joker in his hand flew out at high speed, pointing directly at Molek's face. Your sense of stealing is still so strong, Molek said casually, holding up 2 fingers. Swish, he caught the card flying towards him. At the same time, an astonishing aura suddenly emerged from his body. It was like the strongest fortress, wrapping him up and forming an all-round defense line. This level of thought, Hisoka's eyes narrowed slightly, but more than that, they were filled with the burning flames of battle and desire. It's really a fruit that makes people unable to stop eating. He tapped his fingers lightly, as if he wanted to pull something back. If you want to use stretchable love to pull the car back, Molek said calmly, this strength is still not enough. Do you even know what my telepathic ability is? Hisoka's mouth slowly curved into an arc. It really makes me more and more excited. Really? But I don't sense any murderous aura coming from you right now. With his eyes wrapped in the air, Molek had already used condensation the moment Hisoka appeared. Is it covered up by a thin illusion? I don't remember that this ability can conceal the murderous intent. Hearing this, Hisoka put down his finger very simply. It seems that I really have no secrets in front of you. For the first time, he looked at Molek seriously from head to toe. Your name is Molek, right? I remember it. I don't know how you know so much about me, but isn't this a bit unfair? You know me so well, but I don't know you at all. No need to use these meaningless words anymore. Molek interrupted him directly. You can understand me or fight me. How you do it is your business. I'm not interested in playing these charades with you now, and I don't have time to play these charades with you. After saying that, he turned and walked away towards the outside of the forest. He didn't care about Hisoka, who was looking at him with dangerous eyes. Looking at the back of Molek, Hisoka just squinted his eyes, and his fingers moved back and forth to make the playing cards appear one by one. It seemed that he was looking for the right angle and time to play the cards. But in the end, he gave up. Post views, 479, start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 055. Goodbye, President Netero. It's great to be young, 055. Goodbye, President Netero. It's great to be young. I'm sure I've never seen him before and I don't know him. The aura around him dissipated, and Hisoka supported his right arm with his left hand and his chin with his right hand, and fell into thought. Moreover, the aura he exuded was very strange, and I had never encountered it before. But even so, the other party knew him so thoroughly. He almost stripped him completely and stood naked in front of him. Interesting, really interesting, Shisuo muttered, and took out a phone from his pocket. Beep, 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 Mashimoshi. An emotionless voice came from the other end of the line. Help me check someone's information. Shisuo emphasized, just check the information. No need for assassination, right? The person on the other end of the phone expressed understanding. Then I'll give you a 9.7% discount on the price this time. Thank you, click. The phone was hung up, and the jungle returned to silence again. Only that perverted voice slowly rose above the jungle. What kind of person are you, Molek? I'm becoming more and more curious about you. Ha ha. First, there was a suppressed whisper, and then a surge of killing intent instantly erupted in the dense forest. Shisuo was really excited, and the candidates who were still searching for Raphael's red mushrooms in this dense forest suddenly felt a chill coming. In this dense forest, the devil has descended. When Molek walked out of the dense forest, the first thing he saw was the airship with the Hunter Association logo parked nearby. This airship will take you to the site of the 3rd round of Hunter tests. Seeing the candidates coming out, Izanabe, who was sitting on the stone, also opened his eyes. On the way over, you can take a good rest on the airship. He carefully observed Molek and then slowly got up from the stone. Let me see the red mushrooms you brought out. Don't you think I gave up halfway and came out? Molek asked. Izanabe had a serious expression and said in a deep voice, the aura of a person cannot be faked. Is that so? Molek nodded and then casually put out a bunch of red mushrooms. Please confirm whether there is a target you are looking for. The concrete type. Seeing Molek's method of releasing objects with a wave of his hand, Izanabe's eyes became serious, and then he checked the pile of mushrooms. This one, and this one, there are 3 in total. After a brief check, Izanabe confirmed with Molek, you passed. Is that all? Don't you need to take it? No. The Rafar red mushroom has a high nutritional value. If you fry it a little, it will be a rare delicacy. This is also a benefit for the candidates. Is that so? Molek looked at the 3 red mushrooms that were separated and said, can I sell them to candidates who can't find red mushrooms? Izanabe, well, it seems that it is not feasible. Molek casually put away the 2 bunches of mushrooms again and walked onto the airship under the serious gaze of Izanabe. Well, Rafar red mushrooms are delicious, highly poisonous scarlet toadstools, and they're also very useful at certain times. The hunter test cannot continue uninterruptedly. After all, candidates are human beings, not machines. There is still time and place to rest and adjust the status. The airship is basically the standard configuration provided by the Hunter Association for candidates to rest. It was the first time for Molek to board the Hunter Association's airship. But as soon as he walked in, he ran into an old acquaintance. Hello, Mr. Molek, we meet again. Mr. Bean-Faced Man, who was also wearing a black suit, greeted Molek politely. The president specially asked me to invite you. Mr. Dumian made a gesture of, please. He has been waiting for you in the office for a long time. When Molek saw Netero again, he had already changed into a neat set of sportswear. It was his classic blue and white t-shirt and shorts with the Chinese character heart printed on it. Whenever he put on this outfit, it meant that he was ready for a hearty fight. Long time no see. In the room, Netero did push-ups with one finger without looking up. He just tapped the ground with his thumb and turned around in the air like a dragonfly, touching the water. Then he landed in front of Molek very lightly. You are still so young. Netero put his hand on his waist and said with emotion, it's great to be young, President. You are also very energetic. Molek also looked at him and smiled. Judging from your vigorous performance just now, you are not inferior to young people at all. Well, I am old after all. Netero waved his hand, but he stroked his pointed beard with his hand and looked at Molek with increasing interest. It can be said that it is not an exaggeration to describe it as earth-shaking. Your changes in status are surprisingly good. Is it possible? Netero paused, then suddenly pointed at the bean-faced man. Did you gain this power by eating other kinds of beans? Mr. Bean-faced Man, who was waiting nearby, said, no, it's been so long. Do you still remember? Post views. 481. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 056. Another high-end blind box. 056. Another high-end blind box. My strength still comes from my ability. Molek generously admitted his changes. I still have to thank you, President, he said with a smile. And this time, he was able to ignore the flashing red insurance next to Netero. He didn't let Netero find any entry point from him. Is that so? Netero twirled his beard. Then it seems that your progress is quite encouraging. It's all thanks to the president. Molek responded as he put away the treasure chest. Well, after all, he is the world's strongest President Netero. When he appeared again, another red high-level blind box was refreshed. Although it may be in this hunter test that such a level was achieved. But it must be said that Netero's explosion rate is really high. For 2 consecutive times, the lowest level of blind boxes were high level. Maybe there will be some good items. Even Molek's eyes looking at Netero became more eager. Ho ho ho, if you're so grateful to me, please do so. Feeling Molek's eager eyes, Netero, who had misunderstood, laughed and said, then come play a game with me, the old man. The yellow dodgeball rolled to Netero's feet. I refuse. Molek's eyes suddenly cleared up. Ho ho ho, don't be so nervous. Netero said, it's just a simple dodgeball game. I refuse. This game is very good. In the Hunter Association, many professional hunters like to play it. Don't you think so, Duzzy? Huh? Yes. Mr. Dumian was startled at first, and then his words became smaller and smaller. He still felt a little uncomfortable in his heart for having to lie against his will. You see, even Doozy said that this game, I refuse. Tisk, young man, don't be so impulsive and make decisions so quickly. I am the president of the Hunter Association. If you can beat me, I can give you a hunter license in advance. Then I'd refuse. You don't want a license? If you don't play games with me, I will directly judge you as the loser in this hunter test. Thanks, I still refuse. Then you will not be allowed to take the hunter test again. Please feel free to do so. I am really not interested in your game, President Netero. It was the first time he had encountered such a difficult candidate. The novel was taken from the Raleigh's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. No matter how hard he tried, whether it was promises or threats, inducements or coaxing, Molek just wouldn't listen. It was as if he didn't want to play games with him at all. Or I know what he wants to do. Wow, I've lived for most of my life, and I've never seen a candidate who doesn't give me face like this. After Molek said goodbye and went out to rest, Netero didn't mind and laughed a little happily. It's been a long time since I met such an interesting person. Well, it's not that there were people who didn't give you face before, but you physically eliminated all of them. So the people who came after were very polite. Mr. Bean Face Man muttered in his heart, but he certainly didn't dare to say it out loud. Is Mr. Molek more of a headache than Mr. Kim Foolish? They're the same kind of people in some ways. Netero thought for a moment, but I can roughly understand Jin's thoughts and demands. But Molek, wow. I've known him for too short time. His understanding of Molek was still only information on paper. He didn't know much about him. But Netero didn't care. Even a difficult character like Jin was smoothed out by him and became one of the 12 earthly branches of the Hunter Association. A more interesting young man. As long as he understood him, it would only be a matter of time before he could play games with him in the future. Thinking of this, Netero didn't care. He kicked the dodgeball aside and then walked to the table, wanting to pick up a glass of water to drink. Suddenly, he stopped there. I forgot. He seemed to suddenly remember something. What's wrong, President? Mr. Dumian Ren, the secretary, asked quickly. Is there any work that has been missed? I forgot to ask him for beans. The bean-faced man turned into bean-eyed man. Huh. It's the kind that makes him stronger now, or the kind of beans that were in the Sky Arena before, the beans of your relatives. Netero patted his head hard. When people get old, they tend to forget things. There is no other way. I can only ask him for beans next time. President, the bean is the bean's relative. Isn't that a bit awkward? Also, can we please stop talking about this, my president? No one paid attention to Mr. Dumian's injured world. After walking out of President Netero's office, Molek found a restroom and opened the red high-grade blind box. Got a high-level blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully opened. Obtained. Universal capsule set. Source world, Dragon Ball. As expected, once I met President Netero, it was easy to get items from the Dragon Ball world. Universal capsule. Molek flipped his palm, and a large white square box appeared in his hand. Since it is a means of transportation like an airship, is it a daily necessity like a universal capsule that is opened? This is a high-tech product developed by the Bulma family business in the Dragon Ball world. The small capsule can hold a variety of items, such as motorcycles, cars, airplanes, and houses with all the furniture. Post views. 499. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 057. The devil among the candidates. 057. Is there a devil among the candidates? However, the universal capsule does have its shortcomings. For example, a capsule can only change into one fixed thing and cannot change into anything you want. But even so, it is still a very magical item. But in this case, it can only be considered as a medium level at best, not a high level. Molek looked at it carefully. There were 17 capsules, numbered 1 to 17. This was the set that Bulma carried when she went out to look for the Dragon Balls. It was full of all kinds of daily necessities. As the only daughter of Bulma's family, the universal capsule she carried must have the best configuration. But this level was still not enough, until Molek pulled out a small capsule numbered 18 from the bottom of the white square box full of capsules. The research and development technology of the universal capsule. The introduction next to it said that this number 18 capsule contained the research and development technology of the universal capsule. That's right. Molek nodded in understanding. The finished product might not be enough, but if there is technology that can be developed in batches, it will be different. Such technology is enough to change the pattern and living conditions of a world. Especially space-related things have a huge impact on people's lifestyles. However, With the technological level of the hunter world, which is only 98 years old, the research and development capabilities are still a little insufficient. But if you meet some specific guys, maybe it can be realized. Molek thought of the Greed Island developed by Kim Fulisai and his group of friends. To be able to build such an island, one of the team members must be a genius in technology. If there is a chance, I can get to know him. After putting away the Universal Capsule set, Molek took a temporary rest on this airship. If nothing unexpected happens, there will be a third and fourth round of tests. At worst, we can just end this journey at the fourth round of testing. At night, Molek was resting peacefully on the airship, but the larva forest had turned into a playground for demons. The terrified roars of the fox bears and the wailing of the examinees echoed in the forest. Originally, Izanabe thought that the quality of the examinees this year was very poor. But when the examinees looked pale, as if they were extremely frightened and their minds were damaged, he knew that something might have happened in the forest that was beyond his control. Realizing that something was wrong, he immediately asked the examinees who had escaped about what happened inside. Devil, there's a devil inside. Some candidates were obviously frightened and stuttered, unable to speak clearly. Devil? What devil are you talking about? Izanabe stopped talking before he finished asking. When he saw Hisoka walking out of the forest, full of murderous and bloody aura, he understood everything. Among the candidates, a demon. Izanabe, with his hair standing on end, looked at Hisoka, who was holding a red mushroom in one hand and a human head in the other, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. The sky gradually brightened, and at the end of the sky, a ray of morning glow fell on the earth. The Hunter Association's airship also took the hunters who found the red mushroom and passed it to the venue of the third round of hunter tests. At least 20 candidates died at the hands of candidate No. 33, Hisoka, right? In the office, President Netero glanced at the latest statistical report and picked up his teacup. Yes. Mr. Beanface's face turned bitter. This is considered a vicious incident in previous hunter tests. The 12 earthly branches and the members of the Hunter Test Organizing Committee were all discussing whether to disqualify this candidate Hisoka. Did he do anything that violated the association's rules? Netero took a sip of tea. According to the association's rules, killing someone in such an environment shouldn't be considered a violation, right? That being said, Mr. Dumian was hesitant to speak. The impact is too bad. Those candidates should be aware of the dangers they face before taking the hunter test. Netero said calmly. This is just a murderer in a small forest. If you can't even deal with this, then when you become a hunter in the future and go to more dangerous places, wouldn't you be throwing your life away in vain? A bad environment won't take your feelings into consideration. After Netero's words, Hisoka's judgment was finalized. He himself did not bear any responsibility for it. When the result came out, the other 62 candidates who passed the second round of tests and were resting on the ship fell silent. Although this result was in line with the rules, it was still difficult for them to accept it. This is the hunter test. Someone let out a long breath and sighed. Cruel, dangerous, deadly, but very charming. The remaining candidates also firmly engraved the name of Hisoka in their hearts again. As for Hisoka himself, his current state is not bad. When he came out of the Ralpha forest, his killing intent had almost disappeared. Or, he walked out of it after deliberately consuming his killing intent. After making the 20 candidates unable to make a comeback, he casually picked a few red mushrooms from the hands of the victim candidates. After coming out, he handed them to Izanabe and successfully became a member of the third round of tests. Post views, 510 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 058. Hide and Seek, one of the world's natural heritage. 058 Hide and Seek, one of the world's natural heritage sites. After learning that he was not responsible for the handling of the case, it seems that I have come to the right place. The poker cards in his hand kept switching, and a creepy smile appeared on Hisoka's face. The purpose of his participation in the hunter test, in addition to fun and finding plump fruits, is mainly to be able to kill people legally and reasonably, whether it is during the test or the privileges after obtaining the hunter license. Such a result, on the contrary, made Hisoka enjoy the fun of the test even more. The other candidates on the airship did not raise too many objections, but huddled in their rooms, preparing for the third round of tests. Time passed leisurely in silence. Soon it was noon. The airship stopped at a tall door. When the candidates walked down from the airship, what came into view was a huge bulletin board next to it. Loras Park. Someone recognized the place after reading the introduction. It is one of the world's natural heritage sites and a famous relic in the world. That's right. A small voice came from the side, attracting everyone's attention. A figure with a head like a big gourd and a slender body appeared in front of everyone. And here's the place for your third round of testing. The big gourd-like man had a huge bow on his head, and his hair was curled like a flower curler. The examiner, whose body proportions were completely uncoordinated, introduced himself there. I am Kuti Meili, a beautiful hunter, and the chief examiner for this round of your test. Okay, it's an acquaintance again. Molek recognized her again. Or rather, with this appearance and such a recognizable appearance, it is hard not to recognize her. Kuti Meili, a beautiful hunter, appeared in the president election. At the same time, she is also a staunch captain of Pariston's personal guard. She believes that the lovely and beautiful Hunter Association she advocates will be realized in the hands of the beloved Lord Pariston. After losing the first two rounds, she also called on other hunters to vote for Pariston. Well, she is a diehard supporter of the Pariston faction. This round of test is very simple. It is just hide and seek. QD, Meili shook the big waves behind her head. You now have a total of 64 lovely candidates, just divided into two groups, each with 32 people. She stretched out two fingers. One group will be the ghost, and the other group will catch people. When the ghosts go in first, half an hour later, the people who catch people go in. Just stick the red round card you were given to the ghost on his body, and you'll be caught. Candidates who catch the ghost, as well as the ghost that is not caught, will be able to pass the third round of tests. The red cards issued to you all have a machine on them. Once they are stuck, they will immediately record the information of the person being stuck and the person sticking. In other words, the moment you're given a card, you are eliminated. If anyone is dissatisfied or has inappropriate thoughts, QD smiled on her beautiful gourd face. Then you will know how terrible the Hunter Association, which protects the interests of qualified candidates.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.